Welcome, everybody. This is the MSAD Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, October 9th. Welcome, everyone. We have our student reps had activities tonight, so they aren't able to join us, but it's wonderful to see a bunch of students in front of me. I always love to kick off a meeting with some student highlights, and I'm going to ask Principal Carl Francis to come introduce the GHS Madrigals.
You can see that they're a well-oiled machine. I am really honored to introduce to you the Greeley High School Madrigal Singers. They are an auditioned honors ensemble that I'm really proud of. You know, when I have time to listen, it's really a highlight of my job, and they're dedicated kids that work really hard, and it's blatantly obvious to me that they love singing and performing. So I am very honored to present to you the Greeley High School Madrigal Singers.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose rough stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, the free, and the home of
Start every meeting that way. That was incredible. What talent we have here. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
I forgot to introduce
Yes, please.
the director, Sarah Bailey, who's been working really hard on this. And she is an amazing educator that we all should be very proud of. I know I am. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Francis. Am I using this mic for the live stream? This one? Okay. So thank you so much for having us tonight. Mr. Francis asked if we could perform something and then give you a few talking points about why these students love the performing arts and music specifically. One thing I forgot to mention in our talking points is that they did just perform this arrangement of the national anthem at the Sea Dogs about a month ago. They generally kick off their year by performing at a Sea Dogs game, and it is like really soon after school starts. In fact, this year, we had a retreat and school had not even started, and they performed at the Sea Dogs. So I'm very proud of them for doing that. And also, I just want to say that it's lovely to be back in my old classroom. This was my classroom for 10 years. So I gave them a prompt after we knew we were coming here tonight, and I asked them to just free write, and then we kind of organized all of that into some talking points for tonight. So my prompt was, what do you want to tell the school board about your experience in ensemble music and why it's important? And their answers to that are going to revolve around welcoming environment, academic achievement, brain science, confidence, and community. So each of these singers is going to share a little more with you.
Hi, I'm Evie Riker, and I'm a junior, and I'm going to talk about how music is a place of belonging. Entering the performing arts wing creates a feeling of welcoming and belonging. We're all coming together to do something we love and care about, so it creates a sense of connection and community. Because ensembles are open to all grades, it connects a diverse group of people that we wouldn't have classes with otherwise. We have a dedicated music department that works hard to make us have a safe space. Ensemble singing also helps students build confidence and feel less nervous around their peers. Music is a true equalizer in our schools. In choir, students set aside the stresses of high school and focus only on singing together, creating a sense of harmony and belonging that stands on its own value.
Hi, I'm Charlie Devine. I'm a senior, and I'll be talking about the academic benefits. So a Journal of Educational Psychology study of over 112,000 students, including participants from British Columbia, Maine, and New York, found that high schoolers heavily involved in chorus or band, which means they are involved in over 2 choirs or play over more than one instrument. They found that these students averaged an 11 to 13% higher grade point averages than non-participants in music, with an average of a 3.95 for heavily involved students, compared to a 3.7 average for students involved as music, but just not as much, and an average of 2.94 GPA for those who didn't participate in any music program. Researchers noted that students who commit to chorus develop stronger focus, confidence, and academic habits. After joining the Madrigal Singers, I saw my own GPA increase by 18% in just one school year, a change that showed me how much focus and discipline music brought into my life.
Hello, I am Chase Bilodeau, and I'm a sophomore, and I have brain science. Music lights up almost every part of your brain, making it one of the most brain interactive activities. Participating in music engages more of the brain than any other so-called core subjects, like math, English, and science. Music feels different because it triggers the part of our brain that are related to emotion, as well as releasing dopamine. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ella Purcell, and I'll be sharing some Greeley-specific statistics. 79% of GHS singers were accepted to our district-level honors festival in school year 24 to 25. 26% of GHS singers were accepted to all-state chorus in school year 24 to 25. GHS consistently has singers accepted to all Eastern festivals, and GHS musicians participate in an average of 20 performances a year, including community outreach here in town and high-profile events such as Victorian Nutcracker, Christmas with Kennerly, and concerts with Spencer and the Walrus and Julia Gagnon. Chorus members have rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, largely due to the success and quality of our program, and strong outreach/enrollment effort between GMS and GHS.
My name is Ren Morgan. I'm a sophomore at Greeley, and I'm going to be reading a quote from our friend Grady, who could not be here today. Every day walking into the Greeley Center for the Arts immediately flips my brain from school mode to performance mode. Music is my biggest joy in life, and it's what I hope to do with life. So to experience the seriousness and intention of the music facility and all of our music department truly does help me with what I plan for my future. Our job as musicians and actors are taken so seriously, and that is the most encouraging and uplifting experience ever. I truly could not ask for a better and more dedicated music department and environment, as it really does influence my life in the best way possible and in every way that school aspires to give. Thank you.
Really appreciate you all coming out this evening. I know everyone, you're very involved in many things, and to take time out to be at the board meeting, it's just so important to us. And the fact that the connection with the Performing Arts Center and to have that as a home for this beautiful music is like, we're just so grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. Oh, what a nice way to kick off the evening. Whew. All right, now we have to move on. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 25th, 2025 meeting, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Annika. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments about the board meeting minutes? Great. All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Wonderful. So we're going to move on to public comment. I know I caught a few of you earlier who wanted to sign up. Did anyone who's joined also want to sign up for public comment? No? Okay, great. So the board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment. To ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in board policy BEDH, which I also believe this policy is on tonight's agenda. So we get to discuss this. We ask that all members of the public follow this as well. We follow this policy to keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope that this allows for all community members who like to speak to be heard. I just wanted to mention that public comment is one of many ways to connect with the school board. While the format of public comment at school board meetings does not provide the back and forth with school board members, we offer many other options to do so. So if you ever have any questions or concerns about the school or district, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us directly, or all of us. We are grateful for the questions and appreciate the opportunity to dig deeper into the concerns raised. All of us have school board email addresses that are available on the district website, and we want to let the community know that we welcome you to reach out at any time. For public comment tonight, I'm going to go from the sign-up list, and we ask that when I call your name, if you use the podium and try to speak into the microphone as best as you can. And we do have a time limit to 3 minutes, and there'll be a timer up on the clock. When you hear the buzzer go off, just try to wrap up. I don't have a gavel up here, as you can see, so I won't be using it. I don't have one. So please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. And lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. And please direct comments at myself and not about any individuals in our schools or community. So thank you for anybody who signed up. And I will start with, is it Kara Foster? Kay Fowler, thank you. I know you introduced earlier. Kay Fowler, thank you.
I'm Kay Blanchard Fowler. I'm 14th generation Blanchard in Cumberland and 6th generation Blanchard at Springbrook Farm on Greeley Road, so
That's incredible.
I'm here. Okay. In the center of Cumberland for 150 years, in the shadow of a steeple, was Arthur Blanchard, a 3rd generation farmer at Broadmoor Farm. Spread out down Main Street under Greeley Institute, Geiger Gym, Greeley High School, the ball fields, Mabel High, and the middle school, and then down Tuttle Road, all the way to Drown Road School on both sides, was Broadmoor Farm. Apple trees lined these fields, and Jersey cows wandered around in the pastures. People came on buses to visit the orchard and to return home with a sweet taste of Broadmoor apples. Traffic stopped to allow cows to cross the street at Tuttle Road from the barn to the pastures. Local kids walked home from school and stopped to buy their apples or to work at that first job after school. Picking drops and buying apples for a penny for their apple a day. Gone now are the Jersey cows and the apple trees, but lingering still are the memories of Broadmoor Farm and Arthur Blanchard in Cumberland. For these reasons, I would like to suggest that we name the new school either the Blanchard School or Broadmoor School. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you shared a beautiful picture with me earlier.
Yes, I do.
Do you mind sharing that?
This is a picture, and the picture was given to me by Arthur Blanchard one time. It is a picture of his Jersey cows in the moor, in the Broadmoor. It's behind, on Tuttle Road, it's behind the fire station and going down Tuttle Road toward Drown Road. So if you'd like.
Yeah, I love hearing this history of our community, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Appreciate that. So cool. Michael Sweat. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Sweat from North Yarmouth, but I'm here tonight on behalf of the Cumberland North Yarmouth Taxpayer Advisory. Thank you for allowing us to engage in your meeting, and again, every time I speak here, I want to make sure I thank you for your service. Our goal of the Taxpayers Advisory Group is to support elected leaders in both the towns and MSAD 51 to encourage governing that is effective, ethical, and fair, working collaboratively to foster healthy communities while keeping residents informed and engaged with their local government. We're all taxpayers, and we have several of our members here tonight. So why are we here tonight? We're here because the Taxpayer Advisory Group supports the implementation of a tax levy cap for both Cumberland and North Yarmouth to include MSAD 51. We're proposing, and we've done this to the Cumberland Council and to the Select Board in North Yarmouth, we're proposing tonight that annual tax increases be limited to the higher of 2% or the rate of inflation. You may ask, why is it needed? We've identified 6 reasons that we'll share with you tonight. The first is that tax increases far outpace inflation in our communities. Over the past 4 years, tax increases, particularly on the school side, have averaged 7.7 annually, nearly 2.5 times the rate of inflation. In that time, school spending grew by 34%, adding over $14.5 million in new spending to the budget. And we've said this before, this trajectory is financially unsustainable. 34% over the past 4 years. Number 2, voter rejection. North Yarmouth rejected both the new school and the school budget this year. Cumberland barely passed by 49 votes. Both of these are under low voter turnout. Number 3, there's an uncertainty around future costs. The tax impact of the $54 million locally funded school bond remains unknown. We expect the impact will be significant. Further, additional capital expenses are planned in North Yarmouth for new fire equipment. Number 4, there's a disconnect between inflation and tax increases. Inflation in CPI for 2026 is projected at 3.0%. Cumberland rose 8.3 in taxes this year, North Yarmouth 4.6, both well above the rate of inflation. Revaluations are worsening affordability for residents, young, old, seniors, new families. And number 6, there's uncertainty in state support. Revenue sharing and the school funding formula are unpredictable, adding further instability to local budgets. Tax levy caps are proven solutions. Maine Policy Institute supports tax levy caps and advocates for their implementation statewide. 36 states currently have them, and 8 more are considering them in 2025. So in closing, to remind you, we are proposing to you tonight that annual tax increases be limited to the higher of 2% or the rate of inflation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. David McLaughlin.
I put my name down, but I really don't have a lot to add to it. But, you know, I've been here for a while, and Mike asked if I'd like to speak, and I said sure. And I just give you a little bit of perspective on it. I think if we put this tax cap out to a survey or to a petition in the community, I think the vote would be overwhelming to do it. I did the research on the 36 states, and there's 8 more states that's looking to put it on the ballot. Maine Policy Institute advocated for it. It seems to be a tool that I think it's going to be a great tool for the school, because first of all, it's going to send a message to the community. I don't need to speak a lot about the seniors and the financial pressures that are on them. You hear from us. But we haven't lost sight of the young families in the community, too. None of us are advocating for shifting tax burdens. We think it needs to go down across the board. The tax cap, I think if you go to it, you're at 9.7% in 2024. That's what your increase was over the prior year for expenses. It's gone up every year. You can't, Mike mentioned it, you can't sustain that. If you go to the cap, you're going to be down at 2%. Well, you got to go from here down to here. But that doesn't require cost cutting. You just got to slow down the pace. I think if you don't do it, I don't think you're going to get the operating budget approved next year. But I think if you start now, you do that, you buy into it, you start the budgeting process tomorrow, not in a year. You start it today because you need to get strategic. Now, part of that is outside the budget process. For me, I think our communities need the growth management strategy to stop it, you know, so this stuff doesn't keep flowing in, although enrollment's not up big time, but that's part of the process. But at the end of the day, the other thing too in closing is, I had a comment made to me the other day about, you know, be a little careful on cutting the cost back on the school. And I'm going, no, 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 no. If you cut back or we really become cost efficient, what you're going to assure is you're going to guarantee you're going to have more dollars to put into the classroom and pay the teachers. And I think with all the pressures that are going to be facing us, even at the state level, the better position we are from a cost management perspective, the better off we are moving forward. We haven't had to be as cost conscious in the past because everything would line up, inflation would line up. That's not the case anymore, so we have to look at things differently. So I think if you take a hard look at this tax cap, think about it seriously, I think it's going to benefit the school a lot. So, and by the way, if you hold a workshop, which I would encourage, extend it. Invite people like our group into it. We can give you a lot of ideas. We bounce us around the table on, well, if you got to go from 9.7 down to 2, how do you do it? We've got a lot of thoughts we think would help out, and we just want to help. Oh, I'm way past. No. Sorry about that.
You're not way past. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Shirley Story King.
I thought of something driving here, and it's a much lighter note. Today, the district shared on social media the awarding of a Genius Award to fellow Greeley student Nabarun Dasgupta, or Nab as we knew him when he was here. And I just wanted to share a little anecdote in our very, very busy world of my first encounter with the Dasgupta family. And it wasn't first when I had Nab and Priya in class. I taught both of them, and they were incredible humans. But my first encounter was with their mom. She's an immigrant from India, and she was at the Falmouth Book Review buying books. And she walked out with maybe 8 brown paper bags full of books. And so I struck up a conversation with her before even knowing where she lived, and found out, you know, she lived in Cumberland and their family had just moved here. And I inquired about all the books, and she had been given recommended reading lists for her children, and she went and bought every single book on that recommended reading list. Now, both Nab and Priya went through school before we really had laptops or anything. But I just wanted to, as a former language arts teacher, put in that plug for reading, not screen reading, not audiobooks, but immersive reading where you're in connection with the book, and hope that you as a board, especially as you think about preschool and all of the things coming with your early learners, just books. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Great. Okay. Well, thank everyone for coming out and sharing your thoughts and stories tonight. And we got your handout. Thank you. All right. Agenda. Okay. Presentations. We get to hear about the summer facilities recap from Scott Poulin.
Second here. There it is. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is a time of year where we go through all the summer projects that we did in all of the buildings. And this year was no different than most, about 6 to 7 weeks to accomplish all these projects and be ready for the opening of school, students, and staff. So I'll start with at Mabel I. Wilson School. A lot of tile work and a lot of paint work was done at Mabel I. Wilson School over the course of the summer. And while this looks very nice right now with some of the tile and other things, imagine the whole building with concrete floors being ground and prep being done and painting being done and then all new tile put down. Looks drastically different now than it did back in July and August. So some of the other pictures at Mabel I. Wilson School in the music area and up as you're heading up towards the second floor area. You can see the new tile and all the new paint. The building actually looks very, very nice now. And long overdue just general maintenance that's been deferred over the years. MIW as well, you can see the new maroon paint and the paint on the walls. And all of the new tile again. There were just areas that were replaced in this area, but it was more the painting and Jeff's favorite color, maroon, throughout the building. Yeah. So maroon and white. We also had other projects in the district this summer where we did a lot of areas of security, placing more cameras around the district. And outside of MIW, one of the areas where we had a blind spot was outside the parent and library entrance. So we had added a camera there. We also did some camera systems around the area, which is the Tuttle Road parking lot area, which is the side of the building, to add some cameras there for security. And then also did some, let me go back, also did some areas around, the K-wing, the back of the district office where we have the modular sitting there. There's a camera now into that parking lot. And also the backside corner of the gym and the basketball area, which oversees out towards the playground. So we now have camera systems that will help law enforcement, will help administrators, and create a much more secure environment for staff and students. At the middle school, again this year, it was a heavy modular year at the middle school. We've been dealing with modulars, I think it's 10 years now, across the district. And we replaced 3 of the older modulars, which could no longer get air handling unit parts. The air quality was not appropriate and optimal for teaching and learning. And so with all those pieces in place, we took care of the very old modulars, took them out, and replaced 3 of them. And then due to enrollment, we had to add a 4th modular there. So there's now 4 modulars representing 8 classrooms. There were a lot of ramps that had to be built this summer. There was technology that had to be included, security, alarms, internet access, phone systems. So while and also site work had to be done to be able to put the modulars in place. So while they look like there's something you might just haul in there and leave in place, there's a lot of site work and a lot of things that follow. lots of technology that had to be brought out into the buildings, everything from whiteboards to camera systems to the phone systems and intercoms. So thank you to Dirk and his crew for accomplishing that. And you can see the ramps, and one of the pictures there is to keep the mud and dirt from coming off the playground and the other areas. We actually built grates into the ramps so that the dirt would pass through and go down to the ground, thereby keeping the modulars a little more clean. So that was one of the major things. And these were brand new modulars that were built and brought out this year. So we have a 2-year lease on these. So the year that we open the new school, the lease expires on the modulars and they'll be taken out. There were some other things that we do throughout the summer. We had several areas of mold remediation in the building, from areas that had moisture and just aging plumbing fixtures, et cetera. So we had to do some mold remediation and cleaning in areas. And when we do that, we also come through, you'll see in the right-hand picture, you'll see, you can barely see it from here, but there's a stand with an air sampling unit on it. So we not only clean, we sample beforehand and we sample afterwards to make sure that the room is clear and that the air quality is appropriate. So another area is all of our e-waste, or our electronic waste in the district. Everything has to be inventoried. There has to be delivery receipts. There has to be all kinds of things involved with this. You can't just take them up to the place and have them recycled. We're responsible for them, so we have to have actually receipts for where they've gone, where they've been delivered to, and there's quite a process to this. So you can see there's some of the old units that didn't work anymore, some of the old supplies and some of the old equipment. Our technology department does a great job in taking the old items, saving all the parts, and utilizing them to keep our laptops and our equipment and our switches going as long as we possibly can and extend the life on those. So, but at some point you have to get rid of that electronic waste and recycle it. At Greeley Middle School, again, there were some cameras added there out by the kitchen dumpster area, which is as you're heading out towards the retention pond around the back side of the building, back door in the ramp. The music hall area was an area that was a blind spot in there, and both end of the hallway wings and the stairwell. So we did some camera upgrades across the district in many areas. This is something that's been on our list for a while, and we were able to do that this summer and get it done. Again, more security in the buildings, eyes on, so we're able to ensure better security for our students and staff. We also did in technology, there was some network core replacements that happened, and which helped with our internet. We had some switches that were failing, and our network was having some issues and problems, and it had to do with much of our core switches and stuff. So we've made the upgrades in that area as well. And this is the closet at the middle school, I believe, Dirk. There you go. Okay. All right, out in front of the Institute building, there was a tree that you can see where the picnic table is, and right behind, in that first picture, and right behind it was an area where there was a tree that was there. The tree was dying, so we had to have it removed, and there is, what doesn't show in the picture here, is there's some trim boards up above that towards the second floor, which we're going to have to replace this spring and have taken care of this spring or summer. In the right-hand picture, you'll find that we were able to replace some trim boards and do some repairs to the front of the Institute and repaint that first floor of the Institute area. That's like the brand of Greeley. You drive down Main Street and you see the face of the Institute, and we really want to preserve that and take care of that. So, but the final thing that we'll need to do, and we ran out of time this summer, is the bell tower itself. And the bell actually works still, so everybody knows. The bell tower has lead paint, so we had started to do that, tested, found that we had more lead paint that we had to remove, so we stopped because we were right up against the school year, and we're going to wait and do that either this coming summer or in the fall, maybe when there's a break, in the spring when there's a break in school, maybe in the April break or something of that nature. So, and we'll have the bell tower done at that time. At Greeley High School, incredible amount of work that was done there this summer. new tile up and down the math and the science wings, the main hallway and the ramp, many areas that were done. We had a lot of the tile that was deteriorating. A lot of it, was in poor shape underneath it. We had some contamination we had to deal with. There were areas out in front of bathrooms and so forth that, smelled. So we had to remove those and take care of all that. And that was some of the expanded project that we had to do this summer due to some of the deterioration and some of the odors and so forth from the tile. So that was the math and science wing areas and up and down the hallways. Also, lots of paint work done there as well. We had a crew of painters across the district this summer in each of the buildings, ensuring that, and working with the administrators to ensure that the areas were cleaned up, repainted, and we need to care for the facility, so we want to make sure that we do that every summer. And now that we've caught up on it, it'll now just be a maintenance item as we go through every year. So, outside, out by the turf field, the actual field house building was repainted, and the Greeley Rangers redone on that, and that was done by the same crew that we had painting the interior of the buildings, but that was another project that we did this summer as well. Okay, all of that in 6 to 7 weeks, on top of the One Campus project, in which the upper left-hand corner is the foundation that's gone in for Mabel I. Wilson School for the addition there. You can see the turf field project that took place this summer as well. There's also a picture of the maintenance building in one of the middle circles on the bottom, and then the footings in place for the new school over, for the new primary school over on the Wyatt property and in that area. So we not only had all these summer projects going on and capital projects there, we had our major project, the One Campus project going on that we were overseeing this summer as well. So with that, one of the things I'd like to say is none of this can happen without the good vendors that we have. Our vendors are amazing in the district and the contractors that we use. One of them that is always been amazing to work with is Story Brothers, whether it's snow removal, extra snow removal in the summer, or whether they're helping us with the site work for the modulars, drainage, ditches, plumbing ditches, whatever we need, they were always there. So they've been amazing to work with. They also were one of the subcontractors on the maintenance building as well. So R.W. Guggens for electricity, we had a problem with the modulars. This particular summer we found out that the building couldn't feed the modulars, so we had to put a new transformer in, and they were right there to help us and work with us. And so all of these vendors are just there for us when we need them. Box Modular is basically Schiavi. That's the modular company who ensured that the modulars were here. They were on site. They got them in place and followed up and ensured those were ready to go. Doughton's Construction, tile, painting, construction work and repairs to our facilities. They've been amazing to work with as well. And they gear up every summer to work in our district, I think Wyndham, some of the other districts they work in. Northeast Test Consultants helps with all our abatement, our air quality. And many of these companies are right local or people live here in the community. Minuteman Security and Technologies does internet cameras and our security systems. Tri-Check Welding and Fabrication works on the ramps and does the railings for those. Connectivity Point, a lot of our networking. Interstate Fire Protection, we found that when we first brought these modulars in, there was a change in the law at the fire department, or in the codes at the fire department's, at the fire marshal's office, that all of those modulars had to be sprinklered. And so we had to pull all of that sprinkling off during the summer as well, and build a pump station for the sprinklers at the same time in order to have space for students. And finally, as far as all the summer projects are concerned, I want to thank Don Foster and the facilities staff. They've done an incredible job. And to Dirk Van Kuren and his technology staff for everything that's pulled off every summer here. We really appreciate it. And the One Campus contractors, we know that Benchmark is doing the maintenance building. R.J. Grondin and Sons was doing the site work for the work to the turf field. Great Falls Construction is doing the addition to Mabel I. Wilson School and the new construction on the primary school. And Geosurfaces, a 10K company, is responsible for the actual turf and installation of the turf field itself. So, so all of these vendors, we appreciate everything they did for us this summer and everywhere that we're going at this point. There's a lot here, and it wouldn't happen without these contractors. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you. No.
I've been a part of it.
Okay.
First of all, great work as the sole school board member who visited all of the schools last year. I took note of what I will call some shabby tile that somebody pointed out to me was 20 plus 30 years old. So it's pretty incredible to see it looking brand new, and I look forward to touring the school again, and appreciate you guys taking care of our buildings. I had a question about the cameras. Do we have all the cameras we need now for Centegix? I know we were lacking some outdoor cameras that we needed for our security system to match with Centegix. So I'm just wondering, do we have all that we need? Do we need to install more? Are we ready to go?
I think we installed much of what we needed, but I think the pieces that are still waiting is the exterior intercom systems.
Okay.
Okay, I think the speaker systems and intercom systems on the exterior of the building. I think that's what we're working on now.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did get an award for that, right?
I did. It's on my fridge.
I have a question. How do we, I'm not on facilities, so I can't answer this question. How do we make plans for our summer work? Like, what is our process? Do we come together in committee and make a list? Is it something, what's that process?
So we have a 10-year plan, and we have all of these items listed on our 10-year plan, and we have shared that at facilities before and discussed them. And actually, if you look during the budget process, you'll see that we pull from that plan, and actually during our budget process, we actually put that up and say, here are the summer projects and the work that needs to be done in the district. So, and then what we try to do is the things that we weren't able to maybe get to this year that are, where there just wasn't enough funding available, then that just keeps rolling, right? And we keep trying to update that 10-year plan. So we do have a plan in place, and it's actually helped us acquire some of the other funding that we need in the district as well.
Yeah, I know you chase those pieces down. Yes. I appreciate that so well. I just am just interested in the process and looking forward to the opportunity of facilities and finance really working together more regularly. It's been really helpful for me to jump into a couple of facilities meetings to understand the pieces and parts as we're putting things together.
I think the other thing that'll be very helpful too is once we're done with the modulars, now you're not continuing to spend money on temporary space. And then now you can look at what are the things that you're going to start picking off on your facilities and really have an ongoing capital plan that you can stay up with and fund over time and continue to put money into your capital reserve account. The problem is that we've just been chasing space for so long that plan gets, is hard to adhere to. So much like, our bus replacements and our vehicle replacements and all of those is, we've just been chasing space for so long.
And so in our plan that I haven't seen, do we have a way to kind of prioritize so that we have regular maintenance, but we also have ways to prioritize, especially in considering funding and difficult years ahead?
Yeah, we've actually had those conversations in the committee, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's tough since last year was my first year chairing that, and most of our focus was on the building itself. I know the prior year, we did our first facilities walk over the summer, and it felt like we had a much more a better grasp on the normal rhythm during those summer projects and what was happening. I think the school project definitely was the facilities committee's main focus. So our first few meetings this year, it's really been an intentional shift to updating that plan, agreeing to priorities of what we're going to focus on, trying to figure out the right balance of oversight without handcuffing the administration of oh no, we're going to paint this. They don't have to check for like small things with us. So what's the proper process to make sure that they can do what they need to do while also informing us. So a lot of this first few facilities meetings will be around agreeing to that and then executing. But I do think that we do a pretty good job of kind of one-off notifications of when things are happening. But I have felt personally kind of like I need to get a control of just like what's happening and what time and when to expect it. And so I think that's something as a committee we're working on right now. So it's not just within our committee, but it's everyone kind of understands what's happening across our campus.
Mm-hmm. The chilla.
It will be nice to have a normal rhythm in a few years,
It
right?
will, yeah. And the 10-year plan's on a spreadsheet. It's, we can bring it to the committee and go through that fairly easily and
Can we
share
bring
it
it
with
to
finance.
finance? Yeah, I was going to say.
Sure, we can bring it to both, yeah. And we actually just started updating it again, so.
Great,
So we'll
thank
be
you.
able to share that with everybody. So we do have a plan.
Thank you.
And to move that forward.
Yeah, and I was just looking at the calendar because I was like, oh, I think we actually scheduled like an actual like joint in January 30th, I think is what I saw.
Yeah.
John, did you have, oh, no, you're good.
Can I
Okay.
say
Nodding my head in agreement.
Okay.
one thing? And Sarah, it's my third year on facilities, and I will say that since I've been on the committee, there's been this list that
Okay.
has been in existence of all the stuff that's rolled forward from years that hopefully you get to, but it depends on the dollars and the time. So not a lot of surprises. And that list, in years past, we've walked through with the building administrators who have said, here's really what's happening. Like now it's leaking into these classrooms, the roof at Mabel I, for instance. Now there's a huge ice puddle at Greeley Middle, the ramp that leads towards the music rooms or the old music rooms. And so most of the things on the list are not a surprise.
Gotcha.
They've just sort of like slowly made their way up as funding and time and ability presents itself.
Yeah.
One of the things that the board has done very well and the community has done very well is setting those capital funds aside every year. We take those funds, from our district budget meeting, get the voters' approval on those funds and move those forward to be able to take care of our buildings and do these. So the board and the community have done very well with that, and it shows when you go in our facilities now. So.
Yeah, I think at one of our first meetings after school started, the students were saying how nice the high school looked, and everyone they were saying how appreciative from the student perspective. All right. Moving to items for action. Our first is our annual approval of the district emergency plan. Can I have a motion to approve the MSAD 51 emergency plan as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Can I get a second?
Second.
And I love that it's our safety committee. Nice work, guys. It's like you planned that. All right, can you just remind us what?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is an annual approval from the Board of Directors of our emergency management operations plan. This plan has been completely overhauled within the last 2 years by the Safety and Security Committee. This is obviously a very confidential plan. It is not released to the public. So what you have in front of you is just the public-facing page that is in the emergency operations plan, which just outlines the purpose of this plan. This is a digitalized plan that is locked down and provided to only 25 people in our district that have full access to it, including our SROs, police department, et cetera, in the event of an emergency and fire department. So that is what you have as the summary. Board members do have the right to or have the opportunity to access the plan for a limited time digitally by contacting Melissa Porter, who has oversight over the plan and make sure that it's secure. So this is this is required by state law. That's why it's in front of you.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Great, unanimous. Okay, and then we'll move, put a motion. Do you want to read it?
I will. That's my thing. So we're done. Okay, I move that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize Lease Purchase of Technology Equipment in the Principal Amount of $230,000 $236,297 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Thank you, Kim. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. All right, do we want to just give a little overview of this again?
I mean, I know you all read through the full resolution, right?
I memorized it. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't get a reward. Jesse gets a reward.
It's all there, but yes. Scott, do you want me to go ahead and present that?
Sure.
Okay. I apologize. I had it, and there we go. Okay. So essentially, the district purchases laptops for our students each year, and this year, not to exceed the amount of $236,297. By structuring it as a lease purchase, it saves the district money. We are able to spread it out. Sometimes then in a year where we have a cost center that came in under, we are then sometimes able to pay off the lease purchase ahead of time and save money that way. So you have all 12 pieces of that resolution showing that it is in compliance with Maine state law for school districts. We do it often. Do we do it every year?
Yeah, we do. It's
Pretty much,
it's
yeah.
a financial tool
Mhm.
which allows us to get the equipment during the summer and order it and get it in. And then we can enter into a lease purchase if we want to, or we don't have to, but you have to enter into this resolution within 60 days of actually
right.
paying for the equipment. And what we do is we, rather than pay interest, okay, on something, we wait until we get towards the end of the fiscal year, see if we have funds available at the end of the fiscal year, and then we don't have to enter into that lease purchase and then carry that payment to the next year and the next year and the next year over a 3-year period and pay interest on it. So it's really a financial tool, like you say, that we've used a number of times, and it's worked well for us. So, yeah.
Any questions? Jesse?
I got a question for you. So we're just under the amount where we would have to put this out for competitive bid, right? At 250.
That's for building projects.
Oh, that's just for building.
Okay, that's for
But
construction.
still, it's a huge amount of money.
It
so
is,
can you just I signed all the warrants, so I know who we're paying to do this, and I looked them up. But can you just tell us who we're buying this from, and why do we know that they're not, taking us to
Absolutely,
the cleaners
yeah.
on these laptops?
Dirk and I just talked about this just recently. So what I'll start with is it isn't just laptops, okay? It's also the switches and things that we did for the network upgrade, which was a major piece of this. I mean, that was probably
I apologize,
close.
I forgot to say.
It's okay. I mean, it's all on here. It's but it's that was about 80,000 of the total. So just the network upgrades by themselves. And the reason why we know that we're getting the best price is much of this is purchased through the main laptop initiative, the MLTI program. So while we get reimbursed by the, what's that?
Angus.
There you go. So while we get reimbursed for a good chunk of these laptops that we purchase, there are some that we have to buy in addition. I believe it's the second grade laptops every year that we buy that go in through the cycle. And we buy those at the MLTI price. So we aren't going to get a better price other than that MLTI price through the state. And so that's how we know that, Jesse.
Okay.
And then, and there's a lot of other pieces that we do through this. Some of the smaller items which have to do with some of the projectors and some of the other things. So yeah, we know we're doing the right price and we're getting a good price through the state of Maine for the laptops.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, then this was a budgeted expense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we budgeted for the principal and the interest on a lease purchase. So roughly $80,000 a year for 3 years is what we budgeted, 80-something thousand for this in our budget to get to that 230-something thousand number plus interest. Okay, it was a little over 80,000. So it's budgeted for that. And so what we do is we buy the items, pay the full 230,000, sit on that for the year. And if we have to enter into the lease purchase at the end of the year, we will, and then we make that first payment that we budgeted for. If not, if we have funds left in several other cost centers, the board every year at the end of the year will do transfers from cost centers, and then we don't have to enter into the lease and thereby don't have to pay interest and principal in the next year. So, but it was a budgeted expense, and all of these items were part of your budget.
Okay, great. And anything different from past or other similar lease purchase agreements that we should be aware of?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. And then what we do is we'll go out to several institutions. Usually Androscoggin has been our best bet. The town uses Androscoggin as well, as far as I know. And they've always given us the best price on interest, and we get a municipal rate on that. And then it's also, if we're under a certain level, it's a municipal tax exempt rate, so.
Thank you.
So every school I've ever worked with has done this, and I don't know how you would do it otherwise. I think this makes the most amount of sense. I think I asked this last year, and now I don't remember, so I apologize. Copiers and other technology, are those also on a similar lease? Like the schools that we've done this, that I did this with, we'd have multiple leases at the same time, but like it's because we had different levels of students. Like high schoolers had one computer lease, right? So this is like when we think about the life cycle of every technology and how long these leases last, we just had a bunch of them. Can you give me kind of context in terms of like our lease scope? Like, do we have multiple leases like this going on at the
We've
same
had
time?
multiple leases, and how we try to plan them is that as one is paid off, another one comes on.
Right.
So we try to keep our budget flat in that area, as flat as possible, by as one comes off, another comes on. There have been times as well that we paid them off early, Tim, okay? And we've been able to pay those early, so that we don't have to carry that principal and interest and payments into the next year, which helps us out in the next budget year. Right now, I believe there's one technology lease remaining, and we do roll our photocopiers in at time. Those are all part of a replacement schedule that we do as well, because technology, we had worked number of years ago to use a product called PaperCut, and we got rid of most of our printers across the district, and we went to printing to the photocopiers, because it's less expensive price per copy if you go through your photocopiers than it is if you have, toner and other things. So it was another cost reduction measure across the district. So right now there's one left for technology right now, which I think is a 2-year lease at this moment. So that would be it. And then we have not a technology lease, another transportation lease on a school bus, which is actually being reimbursed by the state, so a chunk of that money.
Great. Any other questions?
I will add that I was playing around with my company's ChatGPT, and I fed it the resolution, and I said, how would I explain this to someone who does not understand what a lease purchase is? And the first thing it said was, a lease purchase is a wise way for a district to save money, and I'm so glad you asked.
ChatGPT is so positive.
It was so affirming. Yeah. But yes, I did. As I read through it, I realized it was pretty much actually what we've always said, every year. So I didn't bring it with me. But yes, it is absolutely a smart way to do it.
It makes perfect sense, because you're expensing the item over its useful life, right?
Right.
Makes sense.
Wise way.
So.
Great. Thank you. Great. Any other questions? Great. All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Now we're going to move on to the superintendent's report, which will highlight the enrollment. Thank you.
Superintendent's report tonight at Mabel I. Wilson School. The grand event is coming up. This is a very popular item. We have grandparents and grand friends are invited to Mabel I. Wilson School. It's a huge event. Literally hundreds and hundreds of people attend this event, so that is upcoming. In fact, it's so big they have a couple different times that they hold the event. Save Beachtown, 5th graders at GMS 4-5 are working together to save Beachtown from a hurricane. This is all part of a project. They're considering seawalls, levees, wetlands, and putting buildings up on stilts. Citizenship in 4-5 as well. 4th grade students enjoyed their walking trip to the Cumberland Town office to meet with the town officials and employees and learn about local government, civics, what connects to the October theme of citizenship. Fifth graders in Melissa Feist and Claire Harrington's classes learned about volume by creating cardboard creatures. Cardboard creatures are displayed now in the library at the middle school. GMS 6-8, the spirit of learning extends far beyond the classroom. Of course, was at the Cumberland Fair. And this student, sixth grade student, was the grand champion and won an award for, I'm not sure exactly what the award was, but obviously something to do with rabbits. GMS 6-8, seventh grade Spanish students were learning about monarchs. They have names, hopes, dreams. They made connections between the butterflies and the Day of the Dead beliefs, and from a history lesson from the Mexican history as we begin reading a short fictional novel. I'm not going to try to pronounce those names. Greeley High School Senior Sunrise Breakfast. This is an annual event. Seniors get up early, come to school very early, and watch the sunrise over the amphitheater and have food and socialize. Also at the high school club fair, this is an opportunity for students to actually visit other clubs. I think they had 3 choices where they could visit and do something different. This is through an extended advisory and just get a taste of all the offerings at the high school, especially if they don't have opportunity or enough time to participate in those clubs themselves. And recently, actually today, not recently, today was World Mental Health Day, and I think it's actually officially tomorrow, but it was observed by the high school today. The Green Bandana Project, this is part of the Kyle Cares Club. Kyle Cares is a club that's been around the high school for about 3 years now. It was started by students. It's one of the most popular clubs at the high school, perhaps the largest club at the high school at this point. And it's won regional awards for its membership and its drive. So basically the Green Bandana Project, students had green bandanas tied to their backpacks and clothing, whatever worked today, to increase awareness around mental health and suicide prevention. Tomorrow is World Suicide Prevention Day. And so this was an opportunity for students and staff to observe this awareness and have the green bandanas all around the school. So it was a very good project from Kyle Cares. Superintendent's Notebook, I won't go through this too much. Scott already reviewed this, but progress made on obviously the MIW addition and the new school. The footings in a couple of sections of the new school now have been placed, and we'll be seeing a lot more concrete in the next few weeks from Great Falls. The MIW staff tomorrow has been invited up to take a tour of the site with Great Falls, so they'll be doing that tomorrow. Tomorrow is a professional development day, so they'll be spending a few minutes at the end of the day taking a tour of the site. Superintendent's Notebook, I just wanted to make you aware that Maine has had a multi-year program called Maine Loves Its Public Schools. Schools are invited, districts are invited to participate in this, and this report is shared out, and there's links in this report that people can go to and actually read the stories that we have submitted here from MSAD 51. And recently we've submitted 4 different stories that have been picked up by the Maine Department of Education in their campaign around Maine public schools, or Loves Its Public Schools. So just want to make people aware, and again, the links are also going to be in the report and can be, you can click on the entire article. That's something that we do participate in with other districts in Maine. And just a reminder that Name Our School. We have a new school that will be completed in about 20 months. And we have a process by which people can submit their interest in a new school. Melissa Porter is the contact in my office, and she is handling all this along with the communications committee, which Megan Lichter is a member of that group as well. But the end of the month is the deadline. So far as of today, we have 4 submissions and we're looking for more. We also have a lot of students that are going to be or are involved, and will be submitting their suggestions as well over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully the board will have a robust number of suggestions. I also like tonight to talk about the annual enrollment update. This is something I do annually. There's a lot of factors that go into looking at enrollment. Enrollment's a very important aspect and data point that we look at every single year. State of Maine requires that we pay attention to our enrollment for a very good reason. They provide funding for the number of students that we have. That funding formula is extremely, extremely complex, has a lot of weights that are attached to certain groups of students. October 1st is our official enrollment date that we have to submit our numbers to the state of Maine so that they can use those numbers for our subsidy. So it's very important that we complete those reports and that they're incredibly accurate. Our new kindergarten class every year is obviously one of the most important data points that we use in predicting our enrollment going forward. Outgoing senior class size, another incredibly important point. Birth rates and trends, we do look at that. They're not always accurate, especially in our community, but I'll show you in a minute what we do with that. New housing starts, and that's obviously development in both towns. New housing starts and development is becoming an increasingly important factor over the last 10 years. It has been. It has led to the increase in population in our district by no stretch of the imagination. That is absolutely the case. And each town has its own policies and procedures and comprehensive plans, and those plans directly impact what happens at the school. And our enrollment has been increasing. There's been a direct relationship, between development and the increasing enrollment in the schools over the last decade in MSAD 51. Rebecca Wendell, who has been our enrollment specialist that the board has hired 3 different times to do enrollment numbers, has pointed this out on numerous occasions that there is a direct relationship here. Turnover housing sales is also another important point. People move out of their homes, and often young families will move into them. Private schools and charter schools. Students, obviously, in the state of Maine have access to these. There are 10 charter schools in the state of Maine currently that are officially recognized by Maine, and there's who knows how many private schools. We have students that attend both, and those obviously influence our enrollment numbers. Homeschooling is a state law. Students may be homeschooled by their parents, and if that's the case, those numbers are also influential on our enrollment. Transfers in and out. Transfers in and out are just literally students moving in or out of our district on a regular basis, which happens in every school district. Families do move. That's just the way life is. Superintendent agreements is an agreement between 2 school superintendents to accept a student or not accept a student. And in Maine right now, both superintendents must agree to for a student to be enrolled in a district other than the one they live in. And if they agree, then there is no appeal. If one of the superintendents does not agree with the other, the parent may appeal that decision to the state. The reputation of the district obviously weighs in on enrollment of any school district, and then the economy and the housing market. So those are all important factors that go into enrollment. Those are not new things. Rebecca Wendell, when she's given reports to the board over the years, has also talked about those things. So I want to talk about resident bursts for a minute. So our kindergarten classes for the last 3 years have been on the lower end of things compared to the last 10 years of enrollment, where we've been seeing increasingly large enrollment for kindergarten classes. So the arrow indicates where we're currently drawing in our kindergarten classes. So we're at the tail end of 2019-20, and we're still in that dip. And this is, again, information that was provided by Rebecca Wendell in her last report. And you can see that those numbers were just kind of climbing out of those lower numbers where we've seen a dip. That corresponds with our kindergarten class. So the last 3 kindergarten classes have lined right up with what was predicted and forecasted by Rebecca Wandell in looking at those resident births. Now, again, resident births are not always an indication, and over the last 10 years, they've not always been a reliable predictor of, there's not a direct correlation, but we can see that it is a factor, and we are climbing out of this particular factor as we look at our enrollment. So if this is accurate or giving us any indication, we're going to see our enrollment again start moving up in kindergarten in 1 year. And in checking with the recreation department, which does soccer registrations, and the amount of students in our community that participate in soccer is pretty overwhelming, I think. And it is a good indicator, a reliable indicator in some respects, or an indicator of future kindergarten enrollment. My understanding is that the preschool enrollment in soccer this season is up a lot, which means that we may be getting a large kindergarten class again next fall. Our pre-K 12 enrollment, again, the arrow is where we're at right now, 2025-26. As you can see, the enrollment is going up incrementally, but not at an unusual pace. It's just going up. And so generally speaking, that's what was predicted by Rebecca Wandell. In grades pre-K through 3, after several years of enrollment going up, as you can see in the green, we're now where the arrow is. We've flattened out as predicted at the pre-K through 3 in terms of our kindergarten classes coming in. So it's showing a small uptick there. We are actually not at an uptick at pre-K through 3 right now. So again, these numbers were completed by Rebecca Wandell, and last completed back in 2023 is when the board last commissioned an exterior or external enrollment report. So that kind of shows you generally where we are. At 4-5, you'll see that enrollment again was predicted. This is again from 2023. These charts are from the last external report. You can see that the enrollment is going up, and that you will see that is the case, and has been the case for the last 3 years. At 4-5, it started to flatten out, which again, if you look at that arrow, you're starting to see the flattening out there, and then there'll be another increase if that's accurate according to this chart. For grade 6-8, you are seeing, in the green, again, that's historical, really flat enrollments at 6-8 for over a decade. And then since 2023-24, the enrollment has taken off. And of course, that mirrors what was going on at the elementary level for many years. And you'll see in just a moment that those numbers at 6-8 have absolutely aligned with this chart, and those numbers are going to continue going up for several years. And at the high school, we are actually seeing a little bit different trend than what you see here. You're seeing kind of a continuous flat trend at the high school into this year. We're actually seeing that the enrollment is going up at the high school level. We're bringing students in who are just students that are moving in high school, which is an interesting phenomenon, and we've actually been seeing it at the middle school as well. Not necessarily all students that start with us in kindergarten are with us all the way through. Or I should say, kids don't always start in kindergarten when they're in middle school and high school. Sometimes their families move into the district. And we've been seeing more and more and more of that in recent years. So this is actually a little bit off. I would say the trend is to go up, and you'll see that in a moment. So current enrollment, and I'm giving you the enrollment over a 3-year period of time. And I'm also giving you projections from Rebecca Wandell when she did her projections last, again, in November of 2023. And then NESDEC, which also does an enrollment report annually for us. This is from the fall of 2024, was the most recent one they did. They're working on a current one for us right now. But as you can see in the bold, October 1st, 2025 is our actual counts. These are the numbers that will be certified to the state for subsidy purposes. So at pre-K 3, we are down. We're down 56 students, which is the 1-year change in over a 2-year period. It's 63. That's not an additional 63, that's just the cumulative change. So at 674 this October 1st, we were at 730 last year for certified enrollment and 737 the year before. At 4.5, we are more or less maintaining. We're at 374. We were at 375 last year, and we're up from 2 years ago, 361. So overall, a 1 year change of down 1 student, but up 13 over 2 years. Grades 6 through 8, we're at 546 students. That is we're increased from a year ago, which was 515, and a huge increase from 2 years ago, 482. So a 1 year change of 31 students up, and up 64 students over 2 years. Grades 9 to 12, we are at 649. We were at 614 last year, and we're at 611 the year before. So we're up 35 students over the last year, and 38 students over 2 years. So overall, our district is still an increase. It's just a much more modest increase this year of 9 students, and 52 students were up over a 2-year average. Bless you. You could see that if you look at the NASDAQ enrollment projections for this year, we were at 2247 is their enrollment projection. We're at 2243, so just about where NASDAQ thought we'd be. But Rebecca Wandell, again, her numbers are a little bit more dated. She was predicting 2,300 for this year, and we're at 2,243. Again, I think taking into account she was doing these numbers at the tail end of COVID. She was very clear with the board when she presented her last report that our community is difficult to forecast, especially post-pandemic, but because we have so many other factors that I mentioned at the beginning that you have to take into account. She told me that our community is one of the more unique ones to predict, and you just don't know from year to year, so she did her best. And again, these numbers are now, we're approaching 2 years old. So enrollment projections, this is just another way of looking at it for this year and next year. If you're looking at the actual projections, the maroon are my projections. And obviously I'm using actuals for 25, 26. Those are the numbers that I just showed you. If you look in maroon, yellow is NASDAQ, and maroon is, blue is Wandell. So if you look at next year, and I'm again using actuals, next year 635 for pre-K to 3 is what I'm predicting. That again is without knowing kindergarten. That is an assumption based on kindergarten. So I'm using an assumption as a number. We don't know what our kindergarten class will be coming in. So if I'm assuming 160 students per class, 635, we come in with 200 students in kindergarten next year, which we've had many classes of that, then that number obviously is going to jump up. So that's just based on what I know today and I'm predicting. For 4-5, it will be up quite a bit from 374 to 396 based on actuals. For 6-8, 546 to 554, so up a few students. And at the high school, up a few students from 649 to 665 for next year. So overall, next year I'm predicting that we'll go from 2243 to 2250. Again, not really knowing our kindergarten enrollment. I think that's the wild card. If that turns out to be larger than I'm predicting, then obviously those numbers are off. So break this down a little bit to give you more information about enrollment and where is our enrollment on some of these other areas. For students who are homeschool, we've seen a drop in these numbers this year. We have 5 fewer students homeschooling. We had 69 last year. We have 64 this year. They have to register with the state, and they have to register with us. So those numbers are pretty accurate. We chase those numbers. We look for families that may have not submitted and make sure our numbers are accurate. Charter schools, right now there are 21 students that we have been made aware of. Again, we work on making sure that we get all of the numbers from the charter schools that are submitted. We had 30 students registered in charter schools last year in our district, and we're at 21 right now, so down 9. Private schools are not required to submit their numbers to our two districts, to school districts. So we have an arrangement where all the private schools that we are aware of that have our students, some submit those to us automatically, and then we go ahead and collect those numbers and get those from private schools as well. So most of those numbers are pretty accurate from year to year. Sometimes we'll get numbers after I've done this report. But as of right now, we have 85 students registered who in a private school, so that's down 40 from last year. That may or may not be the number that we end up with, or it might be. It might be a trend. Superintendent agreements in, we have 32 students that were accepted for this year into our district. That's up 5. I also want to just point out that I had to decline many students, as I have in recent years. We look at grade levels, we look at class size, we look at where we might have capacity for a student to fit into a class and where we don't. This year I declined a lot of students, unfortunately, who wanted to come here. But those are 32 that I was able to accept. And then superintendent agreements out, we had 11 students, which is down 5 students from a year ago. So the summary for this report this year is that the overall district enrollment increased for the 10th year in a row. Enrollment increase, of course, it was more modest this year than in recent years, but nonetheless still increasing. Enrollment increases are most pronounced now at the secondary level. Fewer students are being homeschooled or attending charter and private schools this year. Kindergarten enrollment came in lower than projected this year. We'll be watching that, of course, over the next year. Overall elementary enrollment has flattened or declined in some places. And we need to monitor the kindergarten enrollment, as I mentioned earlier, to see if the flattening of kindergarten or the declining of kindergarten enrollment continues, or is this something that where Rebecca Wandell predicted that we would be going back up and having those larger bump classes. And just to give you an idea, 10 years ago, we had classes that averaged around 130 students in a grade level. We've had many years where we were at 190, 200, even over 200. And so we are seeing, obviously, fewer students right now coming into kindergarten. But again, based on predictions, it's very possible we're going to go back up there. So I'd be really cautious. And I think a lot of it, birth rates are one part of this. But there certainly was predicted that birth rates from the 2019 pre-pandemic years, there was a drop there, and certainly we're seeing that there seems to be some sort of relationship there in those numbers. So,
great, thank you. I'm sure there's questions. I think that, as you mentioned, the classes with 180, 200 students, those are now working their way up through the middle school, and that's part of the reason why we're seeing those increases. And a lot of the maybe newer families to the district are also adding students in those grades.
Yeah, and there's one thing I did not mention, actually, that reminded me, is that so 10, 12 years ago, we used to regularly have about 10% of our students that would leave the middle school and not continue in our district. So they would go to private schools, they go to charter schools, they would, go somewhere else. And that was a very consistent number for the longest time. We're now seeing that below 5% as students are staying here and going to Greeley High School after they finish 8th grade. That is, and we've seen that since the pandemic. That has been a pandemic trend, that our students are not leaving us after 8th grade and going to a private school. Of course, that shows with the private school numbers, but just outside of that, that's a general trend that should be noted as well as we're looking at these things.
Great, thanks. Questions?
I know you mentioned that you had to turn down more than several students to do a superintendent exchange, or whatever the proper name of that is. Were there any that were not allowed to leave the district for any other reason, or were all those approved?
No, we generally, the only reason I wouldn't allow a student to leave is if I've talked to a superintendent who said I can't accept the student. And so we generally try to agree on those agreements if it makes sense. The baseline for superintendent agreements is it in the best interest of the student? That is the state law. And so as a superintendent with another superintendent, we have to ask that question. Is this in the best interest of the student or is it not? And that's the answer. That's the question we're answering. So, I can't think of, I'm just not thinking of any student at the top of my head where an agreement wasn't made on a student going out.
Jeff, could you go back to the slide showing pre-K through 3 and 4, 5? I think it was.
This one.
Oh, yeah. No, back or forward 2.
The the ones that just had the 2 years, Kim.
Was it that one? I feel like it was a later one, but that's okay.
This one?
I don't know. That's go back one. It's fine.
You tell me.
Pick a slide, any slide.
I know, yeah.
Slide.
My question is the 4, 5 being 2 grades, pre-K through 3 being primarily 4 grades, right? Pre-K, okay.
Yeah.
That amount is a significantly higher percentage for 4 or 5 being only 2 grades compared to kindergarten through the 3rd grade being 4 grades.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what was my question? My question was, is that typical, or is that because of the bubble? But is it typical that 4, 5 would see perhaps a greater increase, like people moving in with older kids, or maybe they've gone to a private school for primary, elementary. Like, is there typically an influx of 4th and 5th grade?
If Carol MacArthur was here, she'd tell you there is. I mean, we do get students that move into the district starting in 4th and 5th. We see that in 6, 8. We see that in high school. Right. So we see it at all 3 of those levels. So that is absolutely the case. We get new students, not just students that we already have, who also, and I couldn't tell you the number of new students that came in. I didn't track that for this report, but who just moved in and became new students to our district in 4 or 5. But that is true.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just holding on to that information as we look at 4, 5, and 6, 8 for the next year or two. That huge group of kids.
Yeah, it's a lot of kids in that building until the new school gets built. And I think as our community continues to become less affordable, I guess, it's harder probably to move. Younger families might have a harder time being here, but maybe when their kids are a little older and they're further along in their career, they can afford. But yeah, I think we might continue to see that of like families with older kids moving in. Yeah. Other questions?
Okay, Jeff.
I know you couldn't.
Tell me, we kind of brushed by it a little bit, and I don't have general concerns because I know pre-K is coming, like what we're going to do with that, and like between what I've seen from the select board and what Cumberland Town Council, like we're still growing. But we kind of brushed aside a little bit how far off that estimate is. So, and we've made some like good decisions based off of big decisions based off of that. So,
are you talking about the prior slide?
The blue. I'm just talking. We can see it
one.
here.
Okay.
Like that. The Wandel projection is pretty far off from actual. And like I'm not judging, like it's a difficult science, but we are pretty far off. So like, do you expect that next year will be that far off, or like 10 years from now based off of some of the projections that she went out? I forgot how far out she went, but I don't remember ever being this far off from a gap from the estimate. It's been pretty close before, and this feels like a jump.
So her predictions for 2 years prior to this were spot on.
Yeah.
She knew that there was going to be 2 low kindergarten years coming in. She told us that very clearly. So those numbers we already knew were coming. That was a prediction. It's this kindergarten year that we have right now that she did not predict being lower. So that is where it's very important for us to watch what happens next fall. Was this part of that birth rate dip that she did not include? And she even said that when she was doing these numbers, that she wasn't sure because of the pandemic, because now we're dipping into that pandemic time period, if her numbers were going to hold. So she had told me that. I think she even said it out loud at a board meeting. So I do expect, if her numbers are accurate after that, it was that beginning pandemic years that we just don't know how to track, or she didn't know how to track. And so I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I think, again, if I asked Pete Bingham Jr., if he was standing right here, he'd probably say, watch out, you're getting a big kindergarten class next year. And if that's the case, then Rebecca predicted that. So that's all I can tell you.
I mean, I guess my question is because what I'm seeing is, like, the room that we have, I have in my head, like the pre-K, and in the back of my mind, like, already adding on to, like, the second floor of the new building, if we would ever need to do that at any point, right? Like, I have that in my mind as a backup. But if these numbers continue to go lower than we thought, like, what does that mean in terms of, like, I guess it's just like, how are we watching these numbers versus what we're saying, like, from a capacity standpoint, we'll be able to handle the next 10 years? Because we're planning a lot from a facilities plan around the amount of people that we have coming into these buildings over the next couple of years. And so, like, it's really difficult now. Like, my trust in the long-term projections has been a little bit shaken. And so I'm now, like, wondering whether or not when are we going to feel confident, or are we going to do another assessment to get more confidence in the next couple of years? Because we do need to have some kind of control of how many people we expect to come in.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things.
Yeah.
So one, I'm actually grateful our numbers at the lower levels are lower than projected, because we know how overtaxed those buildings already are as we're preparing the new school going in. So I was like, hopefully they'll have a little breathing room. I know so much of the work at MIW, like summer maintenance and otherwise, like those main spaces, I know we have 20-something, 30 portables. Those main spaces have gotten a lot of wear and tear because they were never suited for that many students. So I'm glad they get a little more space as we're getting the new buildings open. One of the things that we talked about at our last joint meeting is to have the district and the two communities commission a joint study, because as we've just talked about, so much of what the future projections are so related to the plans around building in the communities. So I would really love to do it in partnership with them, because, this is just based on what we knew at the time, which was a few years ago now for the Wendell study. The NESDEC one we get every year, right? And that's a different model.
We get that annually. We get that in December. Usually.
I'm honestly worried that they're going to see these numbers and be like, oh, we have more room. Let's why do we need, let's continue expansion at some point, right? Like, we project, what we built was projected on pretty high numbers, but they're continuing to build. And I think we're going to fill that space and more so.
Well, yeah, and I think it just depends on what's the add-ons,
but
right?
I'm concerned that, we're going to have a false sense of comfort without the extra variables of what we're going to do with pre-K, and then also the additional expansion that we're having within
Yeah,
town.
it would be great to commission a study together. And just a reminder, we were not opening full by any sense
we got lots
of the
of space,
imagination.
but,
so we had extra space plus time. And I think what the additions, what did they say, a 1-year turnaround if we did need to do the additional class? Was it 1 year?
Yeah, we're not there's no threat of getting to that point, but I always have that in my back of my head, especially with pre-K. What does that mean for us?
I would love to do a joint study in the next year or so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, but I also think we need to track it with Cumberland and North Yarmouth. When LD 1829 goes into effect, growth areas of Cumberland, you could split your 1/4 acre lot into 1/8 acre lots and put a house with 4 units on it. So, there's growth and there's development, but then once this fully goes into effect, people could be putting ADUs on every single property on Main Street. So it's like, we might not want to project.
I don't think that's really on people's radar. I would love like a workshop with the
There's some great stuff that the town lawyers have put online. At least for Cumberland, they have a presentation and like a thing. Because it's like, who knows, the legislature, maybe they'll pull it back. But if they don't, it could supercharge development that's already kind of happening. So I think we just need to, looking 10 years out, all of a sudden people could put up quadplexes on 1/8 of an acre on Main Street and
quadplex.
You can put by law you can put 4 housing units. You can put 4 housing units.
They said quadflex, and I was like,
like a Boston style.
Can I answer Tim's question for a minute? So I did not put numbers up here based on my own projections, although I have them, and certainly there's Wandell's projections going forward from 27, 28 for the next several years, and NESDEC's, using the new grade configurations.
Oh, right.
So if I'm just going to speak out loud, and I did calculate some raw numbers, depending on what you decide to do with pre-K as a board at the end of the school year and whatever plan you develop, I downgraded the class sizes from 200 to 160. So I started using an average over the last 5 years, so it was 160 as an average. So even if I did that, going into the new pre-K 1 school, you're already, if you just maintain the exact pre-K number you have now, which is 32 students, plus you use 160 as your class size, you're around 350 for a school going in. Now, if you decide to serve all IEP students who are 4 years old, plus you have to do 50%, that's very important. You can't have a classroom with all just disabled students in it. You're now talking about 120 students if the board chooses to do that. Now we're at the 462 mark for that school. That does not even address, and I'm not even going to talk about the delivery model for 3-year-olds because that's a whole nother ball of wax. But if you are at all doing anything, that is where you're going to be with 4-year-olds, 462 students. Based on if you're serving all the students on IEPs plus 50% in the building. So you're looking at and that's using 160 students per class. If those numbers don't hold, and we're now looking at 180, 190, 200 students, you're certainly looking at, a larger school at that point. So that just gives you an indication, of how challenging it is to look at enrollment. And to have this state mandate being rolled to the local school districts, that goes into effect in 27, 28, which is when we have to implement this.
Yeah, and talk about a policy change having an impact, right, on...
Any policy change has a huge impact on a local school district, yep.
So one of the things that I wanted to float is just, there's so many conversations going on about like what the implications are of this state policy change. It's just like having a workshop just to ground like everybody in like what the actual state, like what the requirement is. Yeah. So we all can get a baseline understanding and have a chance to talk about what the actual requirement is that districts are being asked to fulfill, because I know like the community's interested in the impact. We're interested in learning more about like what they're asking of school districts.
You mean, are you talking about pre-K?
Yes. Yeah. Sarah.
I can speak a little bit to this.
Yeah.
Or can I speak a
yes,
little bit?
You can.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
So the districts are really becoming responsible for the services, for the speech, language, OT, PT, behavioral services for 3 and 4-year-olds and testing. The state does not have an expectation of us providing pre-K, full day pre-K. You have to provide the services. That is the requirement. And I think that's important to state, especially as we're looking at a new school. We're looking at new grade configurations. So I think pre-K is its own animal in one handful. But as I was looking at these, my head went to, are we wise to be breaking the 5th grade into the 6-8 when it looks like that school is going to explode? And I know that that is not going to be a popular statement. And if we did a community model for pre-K and we did K3 or K2 at the new school, at MIW we did 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 at GMS, and Greeley High School being 9, 12.
And I know Jeff's going to answer this, but this is to the point, even with the pre-K committee and all that, this is to the point of like why we need a better estimate probably than what we have going on. And I don't know, honestly, if we can wait for the towns and a collaboration for something like that, because like these are decisions that are coming pretty quick. And if like the numbers that we're going off of, if we made the 4 or 5 decision is based off of an estimate that we may be fine, but like I'm a little shaken in it right now. So just, I know Jeff, you were about to answer, but I think that's the point of like, we need more accurate numbers or another set of accurate numbers to go off of, I think, to start making, to reassess some of these decisions.
Tim and I did not plan this conversation.
We did not, no. It does seem like a back and forth.
Okay. So if we're just talking about, I know that 5-8 has always been a little bit of a worry. Right?
Yeah.
We did have Steve Blatt's office, first of all, do a report and do a space study as we were going into all this, to look at the space, look at the new configurations, use the numbers that were available that Rebecca had predicted and also our actuals. And he determined that the space would be ample for the grade level for the numbers that we had. Now, to give you something a little more substantive, in looking at these numbers for 5-8, just to give you an idea, in 27-28, and these are my numbers, based on the actuals that we actually have in our district. So these are actual numbers, plus a 5% inflation guard, which you have to put into account for kids that might move in that we're not aware of. We would be opening 5-8 and 27-28. My prediction is that we'll have 815 students that first year. Now, keep in mind, we have a building right now that has 900, I can't remember the exact number, but 900, over 900 students between 4-8, well over 900. We do have modulars. Of course, those will be gone. But the next year after that, that is the high. So the next year, I predict 770 students for 5-8. The year after, 744 students. The year after, 676 students. So it's not going to stay at that 815, just to give people a little bit of reassurance that, yes, we're going to open on a fairly, at 815, which the building has the capacity to handle 815 students, that building. And keep in mind, we run 2 buildings, right, or 2 schools in that building too, and that's what Blatt looked at. They looked at all of that because we have duplicate services because we're running 2 schools under one roof in many cases. But just those are based on actual numbers with a 5% inflation guard built in. So I'm giving you just something to go on so that I know there's some worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it also became like the timing of opening that year was like really important too, because that building, there was no way we were going to have 4-8 be able to be there without adding more modulars to the middle school. So we saved on adding additional modulars by being able to open the school that year. But it is a high, because then the lower classes start to work their way up, and yeah.
Tim, I want to circle back to sort of the perception that this creates, right? Like,
yeah,
we are still doing a lot of work to reassure our community that that building this new school is the right choice.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So if we think about if we didn't build the school and enrollment stayed relatively the same, that would require using the portables for an undetermined amount of time. And at what point, Scott, some of those portables, modulars, they're not that portable. Some of the modulars, we are coming to the end of that 5-year reimbursement, correct?
That's correct. There's 2 more years on one of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
And what is the general life span approximately of a modular?
Well, the newer ones, much longer. The older ones, not so much, so, because they were just old units. But I guess a modular would be a 20-year lifespan.
So, okay, roughly
If I was to
20
guess,
years.
sure.
Yeah. But we'd be continuing to pay.
You'd be paying without reimbursement.
Right.
And you'd be paying for temporary space that you wouldn't own. You would be looking at either constructing something to take its place, or buying the modular outright and holding on to it, or at least purchasing it over a period of time, right? So,
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the modulars are a huge expense for a temporary space that expires.
Yeah, and that's to accommodate the students that we currently have. So if we do see an increase, then even these modulars potentially would not be enough. So it's a done deal. We're building the school, but I think it does kind of help to think in terms of, even with some wiggle room in certain numbers, certain places, right? This was not a sustainable option to keep the modulars, right? And the wear and tear on the permanent buildings.
Yeah, I hope that's not the implication. What I'm saying is we have a lot of decisions now ahead of us that are based off of some of that data. And so I'm just saying that, like, my initial question was like, Jeff, make me feel better about this, but also I do think it's worthy of us to monitor that from a trust standpoint, because we're taking action off of it. And if we have the pre-K thing coming up, we don't want them making decisions on data that isn't great, right? So like if we see a warning flag of like, ooh, that looks bad, it's worthy of us to reassess that and take it for what it is, and then okay, yeah, maybe our plan is fine, but now we have new data, so let's go off of that action. But like, we don't just stay the course because of data that we're finding right now might not be accurate for whatever reasons. But yeah, I mean, I think we're still very clearly need that space. And I still think, based off of what I'm seeing in the town, we're going to need more space, but I don't know how much more space. Right. And I think we're all within our committees are making decisions based off of these numbers, and I just want to make sure the numbers are good. That's all. Yeah. So Jeff, make me feel better if you ever do. But I think it's good for us to have discussions about this.
Well, this is why we annually update these projections, and we obviously factor in the actuals that we have, that we know of. These are known numbers. And then we have to make predictions based on that and thread it through. So that's what we're doing. But I mean, this is obviously, not an exact science. You had a pandemic that was there. It was unpredictable, and that threw everybody off, obviously, with the numbers. Rebecca was very clear about that when she presented those numbers. And I think, they still are threading through in many places, and absolutely, you're going to have, still full buildings in 27, 28 for sure. Mm-hmm. And going forward, and you don't even know what you don't know yet. So
if only, right?
Yeah.
Question sorry. That was really loud. And I know we've had general conversation, but do these numbers include the Chase's Pit development, which was 75 houses, and the York Ridge original plan, plus the 2 phases that are in planning?
I mean, those just came in planning.
Okay.
I think the York Ridge was something that was discussed with Bill Shane at the time, because I think it was already in concept.
Right. I think some of them were
Rebecca,
included, but not all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to vaguely remember. I don't want to answer without remembering, but I think Bill and I talked about it. I think Rebecca and Bill talked about it, because I asked her to go talk to him about it. But after that, no.
Because we've got a lot of development happening in North Yarmouth. We've got a lot of development that's happening in Cumberland.
So none of that. If it was, so her numbers are really from November of 23, and anything that was concept, she tried to get more information from. But anything beyond that, forget it.
That's what I'm That's what I'm thinking. And so just really feeling like how important it is to be communicating with the two towns, because I think Chase's Pit is 74 houses, 74.
Yeah, that I don't believe was ever in any factor. I don't.
And is it
remember
1.7 kids or 2.4 kids? Do you remember? The fertile 1.7. It's a fertile myrtles. Remember? Fertile females. Fertile
Don't count
females.
my household. We're
Yeah, really. Tim's
Well,
got.
that'd be the anomaly.
Tim took over development for the Rose family.
that. That would be its own development.
But I have 4 daughters, so dude, pick it up.
Megan.
Jeff, when do parents start registering for kindergarten? So in other words, like, when will you actually know?
Yeah, they start registering in February, and generally we know we generally have about 75 to 80% of the parents register usually by the end of March, maybe into early April. We'll know about 80%, and then we usually will just forecast from there how many more students that we generally pick up, and we're pretty much spot on with that. We've been doing this long enough, so we know we get about 80% of our kids. We just add 20% to that. Between March and August is what we get the rest. So we will have a fairly good idea by mid to late March.
Soccer numbers seem like a good indicator, though, for the registration.
No, it will be. And we get the most registrations right off the bat usually. So.
Okay, great.
So I just wanted to follow up on the cadence of these projections. So if I'm seeing that right, it was 3 years ago she did this last one. What was the one before that? Are we due? Do we have a schedule? Is there?
So we get the annual one, right? And then I think
NESDEC is the annual, so
Yeah.
we'll get theirs usually in December is when we get theirs. But Rebecca's last report was November of 23, so it's been 2 years. And before that, it was a year before that she did her last one in 2022. And then the one prior to that, I think, was 2019. Those are the 3 most recent ones. She also did one in 2016 for us when we started seeing some enrollment increase.
Do we want to put I know this came up at the last joint meeting. Do we want to put a formal request in? I know we have an upcoming joint meeting to put a formal request in to do a plan together.
So that's up to the board.
Yes, please.
If you, it
I
does
move.
cost.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to put a formal request for, what do we want to call it?
So I would think that would be a motion of the board. That would actually be a vote of the board.
Yeah.
At a
Yeah.
subsequent.
We're ready to
I
vote.
think
Just
they're
to-
ready.
Or to do
So a couple
commission an
things.
enrollment study?
A couple things before you go and vote on it. Do you want to notice this? Do you want it on your next meeting? Second of all, we can do it different ways. I don't even know if Rebecca is doing enrollment reports.
That's what I was wondering.
Anymore.
Yeah.
So I would even have to check with her, or do you want us to go out to RFP? It's not at your policy DJ, but we would obviously have to get a price for doing that. She's always been, it's not that much money to do it. And so it's up to the board. So you kind of have to have those parameters in mind as you're directing us to do this.
Oh, I was more thinking of it just like an invitation for the 2 towns to join us in something.
Is that a joint workshop topic?
Well, yeah, because we have one more meeting, and then we have the joint one, and so, yeah, I appreciate the details that you're talking about as far as how we'd actually go about commissioning it. I guess in my mind I was just thinking of
A letter to
a letter
A letter
to the towns and
inviting them.
Yes.
Okay.
Please-
Sorry,
please-
I think
no,
I
I love
misunderstood.
that you're like
Please
a few
bring
steps ahead.
all of
So
your
you're gonna take
housing
care of that part.
developments
Okay.
in plan, in proposal to the meeting.
Well, no, I don't think it's even that necessarily, Sarah. It's like I want somebody who's a professional to tell the towns ask the towns what they need to do projections, right?
Well, and then you add the GP cog and that assessment and desire for more and more housing.
Well,
and that's just
does
a really scary.
How does GP cog help with
Oh, they don't help, but they don't. But there's a general desire for more and more housing is what they're pressuring, is more and more housing.
It might be a good idea to go in with a joint thing. In 2016, that's what we did. We went in as a joint report, and at that time it was planning decisions, which was part of GPCOG, I don't remember the relationship. But in 2016, both towns and the SAD went in with a joint report. It was done, and it looked at everything. It looked at development, it looked at school enrollment, it looked at the whole thing. And it was actually very comprehensive. And then there was a report out, I know Shirley, you remember that probably, that went to both towns and the SAD at that time. So it was a really good exercise for all three entities to be involved in.
Leanne, would it?
Sorry, it's Megan.
Might want the towns to create moratoriums, building moratoriums. The current legislation
Does not allow it.
Does not allow moratoriums.
Yeah. So we need to know what they're being. Yeah. So I know North Yarmouth is really listening to GPCOG and working along with those initiatives, and they're going to impact our school and enrollment.
Okay, that's
Sure.
It might be helpful as we approach our joint meeting, our TRICOM meeting, just to ask the towns if they could get an update from their respective planning boards, so that, we won't have what we want at that meeting. It's just too soon. But perhaps they can sort of give us an idea of what they know is coming down the
We
pipe,
could ask
too.
for them to present on.
Oh, good. Okay, great idea.
Yeah. Jesse?
They 100% can do that. At the Lands and Conservation Commission, we get a report from Bridget, who's the town
great.
planner. And so we see all the proposed builds, new builds. We also know how many EV chargers and solars and heat pumps are going in for sustainability. But I mean, she gives us a report, so we see all of the development that's coming in various stages. So it would be very easy for Bridget Perry to just hand us that sheet from whatever date to whatever date. She's like super on top of this stuff. So info's out there, easy to get for us if we just ask.
I think it would be helpful also to provide some cost per student to the planning board. So when they are showing one of these developments that comes in, like, oh, we're going to put 74 houses in, that's 1.7 kids per house, and that's a cost of X per student per year, and put that in perspective. So when people are hearing these development plans and what that cost really is at the meeting, they get a better idea of what they're approving.
And whether that development is in a TIF location or not.
Jeff, could you put up the birth data? This says 2018, 2019, but our kiddos in kindergarten are 2019, 2020. So we're.
That's, yeah, yep.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
So I thought you said the arrow were our kids in kindergarten.
Well, is the arrow in the right place?
Are next one over. They were born in 2019, 2020, because I have a kindergartner. She was born in 2020.
Yes, you're right, Shirley. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, the point is that,
Off.
yeah.
I mean, if we're down in kindergarten, then that report's already
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, we're in this era, we're in this time period with the birth rates, we're looking at that. And again, that's what she had made the point was, how predictable is this based on going into the pandemic? Are these really gonna hold or not? Can you really have a relationship between the birth rates and your enrollment or not? This is one indicator. Is it the best indicator? Is it the only indicator? Absolutely not, no. Yeah.
Okay. As far as maybe we'll try to put a motion on the next agenda around what we want to invite the towns to do with us. Unless someone feels confident on what the motion would be right now.
Not the Jeff's details. But we can, I mean,
Well, I was asking what the scope is, or are you actually going, do you want to actually go out and get a report done? Do you want to do it with the towns? I guess that just level of detail, I just want to make sure we get a motion that's correct if you're trying to do it. And I would also suggest you do it when you've noticed it on an agenda.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think we give the towns a heads up we're going to ask, and then at the next meeting we can figure out exactly the details, and if we need to make a motion around that, we do that.
Great.
Are you meeting with them still regularly, or not as much?
Not regularly. I mean, we check in on things. But yeah, we do need to talk about the agenda again. Okay. Great. Any other enrollment questions? I mean, there's always more.
There's always more.
There's always more enrollment questions.
I just had a quick one about superintendent agreements. Like at what point in time do we say, no, we can't take more kids in?
So I always, no, it's a good question. So I always go right to the principal first. So for every superintendent's agreement, I talk to the principal. They look at class size, they look at enrollment, they look at everything and say, I could take this student, it would be okay. We've been seeing in recent years, the principals are saying more and more, I can't take this student. So we get more requests than we can take for sure. And then some of these numbers for superintendent agreements, we have students that have been coming to us for years. They were accepted many years ago. Some of them are now in high school. So the last thing I would do is say, oh, it's nice that you've been coming to Greeley since you were in kindergarten or first grade or second grade. I'm cutting you off now. So we don't do that actually. We just don't do that.
And what, does it tend to be mostly teachers?
We have a lot of staff who have their children come here, but we also have a number of students who their parents do not work here.
Okay.
And here, another category that we do tend to get a lot of interest in is the IB program. So we'll have students that like to come here for that reason. They like the program.
Yeah.
So they'll come here in high school.
Okay, thank you.
And since you brought that up, when we approved the IB program, the whole idea was that we were going to have tuition students, and is that people were going to come and it was going to be partitionally supported by the tuition opportunity?
No, I mean, we rarely have tuition students that come into the district. That's a pretty rare occurrence. And that statewide isn't really practice at all. It may have been practice, it was practice in an era at some point, but it's now, I think it's really frowned upon. It's really, if you're going to accept the student, you get subsidy for the student. Gotcha. We accept them, we get state subsidy on the backside for the student, but that's considered double dipping, and it's just not acceptable.
Truth. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, committee reports. We do not have our students here this evening, so we'll begin with finance.
Just as a reminder, we are now publishing minutes from all of our meetings, so you can find those on the board committee websites under our board meetings, all the different committees that meet. I'll just kind of go through quickly. We looked at the preliminary full-time equivalents hours of what we can expect to see when for next year, but even before the building opens, but primarily the year after that when we have 4 new schools. And so just to get a sense of what we're looking at and what we can expect, and also talking about what positions might need to come on next year as opposed to holding off until 2028. We discussed the lease purchase and agreed to bring it to all of you tonight. We are going to be inviting our bond counselor and financial advisor to our meeting on November 14th to discuss the bond schedule and the debt service. We are coming due for our next BAM, and so ban, not BAM, not Books a Million. It's getting to be that time to renew that or to get our next one, and so they'll be talking with us about that as well. We also are keeping in mind that might be opportunities to look at capital expenditures from the standpoint of the one campus budget, not adding things, not using money just because we have it, but how can we wisely look at what we are gaining, the costs that we are losing with the modulars, things like that. And that speaks to what we talked about earlier, which is that we're very much looking forward to sitting down with facilities and getting a real sense of what's coming down the road, and how can we really be wise about what we are planning for, as well as applying for the revolving renovation funds. We are now, all 4 of us, signing the warrants. So there are now 3 more eyes on every invoice that is being paid. So we've been kind of doing it in stages, but hopefully, Jesse, I know you went. I'm not sure, Sean, if you were able to get in there. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to do it all 4 of us together, but it's great to have new sets of eyes looking at these warrants and coming up with questions that I had to ask, and it's just I really appreciate that we're doing it this way and that we're all signing off on these. And finally, we are indeed beginning the budget process already. One of the things we have asked for is to look at all of our subscriptions, primarily technology. Is there a way to add those to pricing in the cooperative, making sure that there are no overlaps? We do not anticipate that there are any, because the teachers often work on their own budgets, but we are asking just to look at that, because it seems like it's a place where maybe we just want to have a sense of all the subscriptions that we have. There's just a lot, and keeping in mind that the ones we do have all have to have the data privacy agreements. So in that sense, we are somewhat limited in shopping for vendors. Jesse also brought up that an energy audit was done. When was it finished? When was the energy audit? Yeah, okay.
August?
So, yeah, something like that. So we don't have those results yet, but that will also help guide us as we're making decisions about energy costs. And also health insurance is another one that is going to be problematic. It continues to be problematic. It is part of collective bargaining, but we're going to just kind of keep that in mind, that this is something that is a huge, huge piece of our budget. I think that's about it. I do just want to speak to, once again, the idea of trying to meet at night. It does not work for the committee to meet at night. I am not able to meet at night. There are other committee members who are not able to meet at night, and I know it's frustrating when people from the community want to come to the finance meetings, but as of right now, they need to be during the business day, and that's just a constraint that we have. But we are looking at hopeful opportunities to add 1 or 2 evening meetings this year. That's it.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. Okay, so policy, and we have a couple first reads, Jesse.
We do.
This is very exciting.
We do. But let me catch you up on what we did on Wednesday first.
Thank you.
So we finished looking at policy ACA and tabled that. No further changes to that one. We finished up reviewing policy DJ, bidding and purchasing requirements. I think that'll be coming for first read at our next meeting. There's been 2 sample policies that have come out since the last time we reviewed it, so we've got some updates. And we also looked at a booster organization policy KJA, which is not a policy that we have, but it's a policy that was drafted and has been used sort of in relationships with booster agencies. So we're going to get the board to sign off on it, since it's already sort of out there and is a working policy, but it's not in our manual. So that's going to be coming for first read. And we also looked at policy JL, our school wellness policy. We had a bunch of updates, and we're almost there. We have a few little tweaks left to do, so that'll probably be coming for first read in 2 meetings time, if I had to guess. But yeah, we have 2 first reads before us today. I'll go over those. So first is policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings. So if you have the policy in front of you, there's a number of changes. We added this paragraph at the beginning. The primary purpose of school board meetings is to conduct the business of the board related to board policies, programs, and operations. The board encourages residents to attend board meetings so that they may become acquainted with the operations and programs of the schools. So that's a new paragraph. And then third paragraph down, we did some wordsmithing here. We removed that last sentence about written comments should be submitted to the board chair and superintendent. These comments will not be read during the meeting, but will be disseminated to the full board. So a number of changes here, I think, were meant to indicate that not all comments or questions should flow through the chair or the superintendent, but that basically anyone on the board can and should be contacted. And so we're trying to make that clear. So some of the language, about directing things to the board and or the superintendent via email. And then you'll see some further changes further down about asking questions or follow up with board members. Moving down to point 1, public comment, just some wordsmithing here. We did not change the time period. It's still 3 minutes. We did add a sentence, individuals may not relinquish a portion of their allotted time to another speaker. I know some people see Congress doing this, and folks have made jokes about relinquishing their time to other folks, and we just wanted to make clear that that's not a thing you can actually do. Point 2, we added some additional language about who we want to prioritize public comment from. So we didn't have students or parents' guardians on there before. Residents of the school district, we recognize children may have divorced parents. So somebody may be a parent who doesn't live in the district, has a student in the district, so parents are guardians. And also students are important people to hear from, so we added them in that paragraph. We also added the sentence, these are the district's most important stakeholders, so residents of the school district, students, parents, guardians, and staff. Those are the people we want to hear from first. And then we added a little bit of language at the end. We no longer are asking for folks' address, just the town and city of residence, and affiliation with MSAD 51 if applicable. So, might be a resident of Portland, but a parent of a Greeley student who is in a, divorced relationship, whatever. Just to try and make that clear. Point 3A. So this gets to how we follow up with comments. So previously, concerns that require further research will be referred to the superintendent for further action as necessary. So that now reads, concerns that require further research may be referred to the superintendent or appropriate board member for further action as needed. And we had toyed with whether we should direct comments to chairs. But for instance, somebody like me might have knowledge about turf questions, even though Tim is the facilities guy.
Jesse was really the example we were going to.
So trying to just open it up so that anyone on the board could be engaged with to follow up with somebody who has a concern at public comment, and not just the superintendent or Leanne, even though you would answer questions well. And then the cross references, we've updated those as well. So that's all the changes here. And let me just talk about the change in BEDJ, which is related, and then we can talk at length if we want. So BEDJ hadn't been updated since 1999, and we just basically took out a paragraph where it's like, we need to let you know if somebody's recording, because we're always recording now, and also everyone has a cell phone. So really the purpose of this is just, I think if the media is here, that the chair will enforce rather than has the authority to comply with provisions in the policy, so that if the media is here, they're not causing a disruption with their big cameras and cables and anything else. But yeah, we took out that paragraph about whenever a taped or filmed recording is being made of a meeting or any part thereof, the person making the tape or the film shall first notify the person chairing the meeting. The chair will announce at the meeting that a member of the public is recording the meeting. So anyone can feel free to record at any time because we're already being recorded. So if you want to pull out your cell phone, the chair doesn't need to say, they're recording. So yeah, there's an update to that policy as well, just to tidy it up. So any questions as we go through our first read? Happy to answer them, or anyone else on the committee?
I have two, actually. Did you consider adding, and I don't know if it's a policy thing, but if further requests for information or concerns, so 3A, asking the public speaker or the commenter to provide their contact information? Or are we expected to find it?
Can we add it?
Yeah.
Can we add it to the sheet
Yeah,
now
that's
that
what
we're...
I had asked for last time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we did talk about that, and we thought that fell under sort of procedures rather than policy.
Oh,
and
okay.
so
Yeah.
I think if we can add it, or I think in general, folks that have had a specific interest, if they can stick around till the end of the meeting, often a board member will connect with them and be like,
Right.
for example, people who are very passionate about turf for any number of reasons, I would always be like, do you want to get coffee? Let's talk about whatever your concern is. So, yeah, I think we thought that was a procedure, not a policy.
Perfect. Okay.
Point.
And then my other question is whether or not it's necessary to include that board members will, or the chair will not be, it's not interactive, right? So we don't respond to comments during the meeting, even though sometimes we work it into our committee reports or something like that. But
So we talked a lot about that. And the thing is, this is, again, we think about public comment as that first, public comment. But, we've got a lot of different opportunities for public comment, depending on the workshop, or if we're talking about the budget, or just tonight we had, a small exchange. And so this follows really kind of our principles, how we've gone through policies, which is to provide a framework, the least common denominator, essentially, or non-negotiables. But from a response standpoint, we felt that that also could fall under procedure and best practice to allow the chair or chair to chair or committee to committee or the circumstances to allow that. So there's some flexibility in that. It's the same thing as the 3 minutes. We put 3 minutes as a general guideline so the public knows I have at least 3 minutes. But if the circumstances allow for it or there's an appropriateness, we give up to there's some wiggle room in that structure. So again, that also falls under procedure, but we didn't want to tighten the grips too much on the board for a variety of different circumstances from a policy perspective.
thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone?
I'm just trying to figure out how to formulate my comment. I would like, and I think we hit it some level with policy or procedure, but I just really feel like if the board can respond in real time, I think it is just crucial to make the connections for, it's important that we respond, period. But the fact not everybody watches the board meetings, and I know every citizen watches the board meetings, and they make their popcorn and they sit down with their family and they watch them. So I know everybody's involved, and I know they're fully considering all of these aspects. And so as the community has questions, I think it's so important that our answers are heard by more than just the recipient of an email. So I would advocate for as much public response, and I appreciate the idea of, connecting it to a committee report. So I don't know if that falls in, but having it recorded and for prosperity, so everybody can get all of the story as often as possible, as opposed to just an email that somebody might get, which I think is very, very important.
Jesse, did you guys talk about that?
We talked about all the things. So we definitely did talk about this because we talked about time limits, more time limits, different time limits, different different time limits for every meeting depending on the number of folks. And so this, I think, is one of those things that came up. Is there back and forth? Because as we know, Cumberland has, public discussion, right?
Right.
But we don't. We're like, we have public comment, so folks can say something. And I think we came down that like the board has an agenda, and if somebody has a comment and you follow up on it, like it should come up in the next meeting or somewhere else if that's come up. I think we came down that like as part of our, it's not in the policy, maybe it's a procedure thing, so a board chair could decide to do what they want to do. But in terms of policy, we didn't want to set that expectation.
Yeah. In the comment, there's not in the policy in what we're speaking about tonight. There's nothing on.
Doesn't say you couldn't do it.
The response.
But we don't want to set that expectation that we can answer a question in the moment, because maybe we can and maybe we can't, and maybe it comes up later in the discussion of a board meeting if somebody had a public comment, about naming a school, and then we talk about, please submit and get signatures. I don't know if that name has already gotten signatures.
I know, I was curious, right?
Jeff, do you know, did Broadmoor or Blanchard?
That one has not gotten
Okay,
signatures.
so we should follow up and make sure that they get signatures.
We
so
have
it's an official
followed
one.
up. Most have followed up and asked
Great.
To make sure that if it's being submitted that the 10 signatures are there, so she's already on it.
Yeah, so Sarah, I hear what you're saying, that like, and I agree that like the more public information is out there, the better, but also we didn't want to set that expectation that we would be able to respond. So again, it doesn't say, we couldn't, if it was important, talk about it later in the meeting, but I think procedurally, I think that's something that we need to work on to close loops. If there is a question and, one of us follows up, that, in our committee reports, we should try and do a better job to mention it publicly and close those loops.
We considered a small meeting like this, like an everyday meeting like this, all the way up to like when we had the book discussion of like when you have a ton of people and what does that look like, and now we have to follow this policy. So again, like leaving it some stuff like that out of policy and just meaning like, well, we're going to give everybody this amount of time, but maybe we can respond and maybe we won't. It depends on the situation. And I think like it's up to the chair or the board just generally from year to year to kind of figure out what's best within that culture in that time period of what's going on. And so, or that exact meeting, like I think it's just, that's a procedure thing.
Yeah, because the sentence that was in the policy before and is still in there is these time limits, so the 30 minutes or 3 minutes per comment, may be modified at particular meetings at the discretion of the board. So if the entire board decides there's 30 people here and they want to talk, there's no chance everyone gets 3 minutes, and it's something very important, we can say as a board, should we extend it past 30 minutes? And we can vote on it, right? So it's like there's flexibility in here, but we didn't want to set up expectations we couldn't meet, and also didn't want to get into particulars that I think some should be left to the chair to decide how they want to run their particular board.
And I do appreciate that first paragraph, because I think that's a nice preamble reminding just to say it, the thing that this is the purpose of our meetings. And while we want people to be involved and we want people to come, the primary purpose of our meetings. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
With that noted, and we're on the topic, we have a time to talk about that said, not a policy, but a procedure related to that. I know we discussed about it at the workshop a little bit and the summer, and also talked about integrating more workshops about certain topics within the year. Do we have an agenda item coming up, or should we add one to discuss that further?
Yeah, what I've tried to do, and I hope that people maybe have noticed that we have tried to respond more, maybe than we have in the past. The thing that becomes a challenge in my view around some of the response during the public comment time, it's just not having all the information and then responding in a way that may be misleading, or puts people in a position to feel like they're then always going to get an expectation. And also then it sets the agenda of the meeting in a very different way. Like, honestly, tonight I was like, oh, we're going to get through this all super fast and maybe we could have spent more time. And now I'm like, I was like,
Sarah and Tim.
Where
That's
did
Tim.
the night go, guys? So I think that is just something that I've considered. And yeah, I do like the idea of more workshops. I know one that kind of may have surprised, and we don't like surprises, and I try not to do too many surprises, but just because we've all taught, preschool has come up in so many different ways, and there's so many questions, like what is the state requirement? It's, Sarah, you've been a great resource to know that, okay, it's about services, right? And so having like a workshop about that.
That would be great to have with providers and invite providers to like really offer ideas and conversation and what they can provide and have them be part of the conversation. Because a lot of it's we're all doing it, by the way. We've all been doing this for years. Mm-hmm. We've been providing services. Mm-hmm. So we know a couple of things. That was my childcare hat, not my board hat.
We're not deliberating on it.
I don't put on and take off hats.
Okay, so yes, we're still on the first read. Are there other comments or questions, considerations? And I know we did sort of have an informal conversation about this during our workshop this summer too.
Yeah, I would just like to add the contact information on the sign-up sheet so that circle is completed, at least with the speaker. I would love to have it, as much information as often as possible shared with the community on
landscape.
Precisely.
And then we have to be able to I feel so bad. One, just being able to correctly pronounce names, and then if I really can't read them. Great. Any other? Great, thank you. I know that went through a lot of conversation, so I'm glad we got it to first read.
Thank you.
Okay, where's, all my papers are out of order. What's next? Tim.
Is it me? All right.
It's you.
All right, I'll try to go the Cliff Notes version. All right, so we had a facilities meeting 2 weeks ago. We talked about the school revolving renovation fund applications that we're sending. I think we have 2 that are going out that Stephen Blatt's helping us with, and they're mostly around the math wing. Scott, do you have any other additional details?
Middle school.
Yeah, we actually, the middle school is going to be for the chiller. And then we did the air quality test on the math wing and got those results today. And so the math wing isn't going to qualify. So what we are looking at, though, is there's some ADA issues that we have on the back side of the high school. And so we're going to be submitting applications for those as well.
So is that good news, bad news? Like it didn't qualify because the air quality?
The air quality is not
It's
bad
good news. It's always tested fine. So,
I'm not sure what I'm rooting for.
I know.
We were hoping to do some upgrades, and one of the things we're exploring too, and I was actually talking with Melissa in our office today about this, is that there is a new standard at the state that board members have to, or the board has to take a vote of temperatures in the schools. Okay, if you saw that one coming out and stuff, we'll probably hear more about that at MSMA. But there may be something around that I don't know, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the issues is obviously our middle school is used year-round. And, we have our extended year services in that building, and so the chiller unit is important for that building, and AC is all part of the air handling. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
We'll try to get as much up there for application as we can, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, we talked a little bit because we're working on the long-term facilities plan, but we definitely spent a lot of our time in our last meeting talking about some of the short-term priorities. I shared a draft where we have a long way to go in terms of long-term facilities plan, but we'll hit that next week when we meet. Then we also talked about, so the facilities building was off track a little bit for a little while. I think we're back on track for a November open. Apparently we have siding up right now, and so progress is being made. So thank you to Jeff, Scott, and team for staying on top of that and getting on board on that. The current facilities building, that move will begin, and I want the public to know that the consideration from a historical perspective is at the very center of all of our conversations. I know Megan's been working on that, and so we will continue working with the Historical Society and making sure that we make that move respectfully. And there'll be some element of that for sure in the new facilities maintenance building. Then the other thing that I wanted to share with neighbors is that we are aware of the accessibility challenges down to the turf field. We are looking at a number of options. I don't know if we have any kind of updates on that, but I know we've considered possibility of providing gators access down there, but know that we're aware of that, and we want to help the public make sure that they can access that in an equitable way. A reminder to get your names in. So we appreciate the name that came in tonight, but we still have a couple more weeks to get your names in. And Corey sent out a message today around participation in the new school playground committee. So if you're interested in that, let Corey Muncie know. And then one last thing, just a recognition from the committee to our neighbors that we understand that the people who are butting the construction are going through it's a challenge for them. It's easy for people that aren't living it every day to be super excited. And I'm sure a lot of our neighbors are excited, but right now they're living through a lot of the dust and the noise and the construction. And we're still trying to figure out all of our new toys and the noise levels at the field and stuff like that. We are listening to your feedback. We're responding actively. Some of us have met with the neighbors and have actually, Jesse's out there with a decibel meter and figuring out what's acceptable and not. So we're working through that. We recognize the challenges, and keep us posted on how that's going for you so that we can respond appropriately. And I think hopefully so far we've done that. And again, last reminder is next week we have our meeting at 2:00. It's going to be remote again, but we'll try to do more in-person ones that makes it easier for the public to join in.
Right. Are we planning an official opening on the new facilities building? Megan, do you know that? Do we? Have we talked about that?
No.
I just keep picturing Don with some big scissors.
I think they're just moving in and starting work. That's really what their interest is. Yeah, a lot of things that have already been displaced, and not that I'm aware of. But,
Okay.
Is that where we're storing the gold shovels? Because I need to know where those are being stored.
I think that has some interest, though.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah got to put on her childcare hat for a moment. I'm going to put on my driver's ed hat for a moment. Is there any plan to fix here so that the line dividing directions is yellow instead of white? Because it should be yellow between directions, and it might actually help people see a little bit better where they're supposed to be.
So we did talk
It's
about
important stuff.
reassessing that, not the traffic pattern, but making it easier for people to understand. Even tonight, I just went the wrong way, and I was like, oh, God. So we talked about signage. I don't think we've talked about colors, so that we will do. We'll bring that up. That's a good call.
We spend a lot of time teaching yellow left. Yellow's on
Yeah.
you won't be able to see it in the winter. No.
All right. Annika, you're up.
Can I ask them one question?
Oh, yeah.
So when they move to the new building facility, and this old building's going to get torn down, has there been any talk of trying to salvage any of it?
Yeah. I mean, salvage just part of the building.
The old maintenance building?
Yeah, the old maintenance building.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Just because, from a personal perspective, it's if they knock it down and no one takes anything, I might go try and steal some really old boards that are from old growth trees. And,
I will speak to that, I promise, when we get to communications.
Okay, amazing.
There's
Perfect.
a whole plan.
Okay, great. Annika, curriculum.
Okay. So the curriculum committee met last week, and on our agenda was to finalize the draft strategic priority areas. So certainly the focus for the curriculum committee right now with the renewal of the strategic plan is on the strategic planning process. And the committee did finalize those draft strategic priority areas that we are then working with to design a survey that will go out to everyone. We hope that we'll get a lot of responses to that. So as board members at least may remember, Jeff had presented the proposed strategic plan process to us back in June, and at that time there were 4 draft strategic priority areas. And there were some questions amongst the board during that time. There's been ongoing conversations, as we know from the most recent workshop with our district leadership team, around the strategic priority areas as well. And so what the committee finalized ended up being 3 draft strategic priority areas, those being 1 campus, building for now, building for the future, meeting the needs of each learner through a multi-tiered system of supports, and 1 community connected and thriving within and beyond school walls. So those are our broad proposed categories. Again, through the survey process and focus groups, we'll continue to gather feedback not only on those kind of larger buckets, but also what is then contained within each of them. As we all know, there's many things that we already know will be happening in each of those areas, but maybe some opportunity for other things that the committee has thought of, or other ideas that come to us that we haven't necessarily thought of yet, and deciding how we want to move forward with that. So our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, and our plan is we have a smaller group of us have been doing some work to draft the survey, and we're hoping to finalize that together as a group then in our meeting on Tuesday and figure out our plan for getting it out there to folks. And then following on that, and part of that survey will be requesting volunteers for focus groups and collecting contact information from people who would like to be involved in that way. So once we have those survey results in and have been able to look at what that data tells us, we'll then look at having those focus groups later in the winter.
Great.
I think that's it for now, but happy to answer any questions or talk with folks offline too.
I love that third one. So good.
Mm-hmm.
I love all of them.
I love all of them. The third one especially.
Great. Thank you so much. Kim, equity.
We have not met since our last meeting. I don't have an update.
Great. Thank you. Megan.
Oh, so glad. So many things to tell you. All right. The Name the School program is underway, October 31st. I wish that the people in the audience had stayed just a little longer, because to name the school, if you have a submission, go to MSAD51.org and follow the link at the bottom of the page that says Name Our School, and it will take you to the page that describes how to do it. So I will try to figure out how to reach out to that nice lady.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone?
Does any?
No. Anyone? Oh, okay.
Okay. If you happen to be here at the end of the meeting, I'll walk you through it. We don't have a ton of submissions. We have 4 so far, but Mabel I. Wilson will have submissions from each classroom.
Oh, wow.
As the school is sort of separating and many of those teachers are going to the younger school, they will recruit from their classrooms a name, and 10 people have to sign off on it, and then they'll submit all those names. So we should get a lot of interesting, colorful submissions in the next couple weeks. Name the School flyers are up around town. They're on the socials, but we need to get the word out a little bit more. And so for people who don't watch board meetings or get the board newsletter.
What?
If somebody didn't watch a meeting. And so spread the word if you possibly can. There is not a ribbon cutting for the maintenance building coming up, but we are starting to plan the ribbon cutting party and ceremony for the new school in 2027. As far as demo of the old maintenance building, I'm so glad you asked. Don Foster has a wonderful idea to
try to salvage as much of the building as possible if wanted. He would like the public to come and claim, either because there's sentimentality reasons or because
Beautiful
you're
old
a
wood.
thrifty person. Yeah, you like wood.
They don't grow trees like that anymore. We cut them all down. They're in that building.
So I am working with Steve Moriarty on the Cumberland Historical Society to identify specific pieces of the building to claim, to then either work into the new school or something on the new school property to memorialize the old building. So that's happening. So once we get a better understanding of whether or not the public can sort of come onto the property during demo, because there is certainly a question about safety, that'll go out in communications as to how this is going to be done. But
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Is there, maybe this is a Tim question, what's the timeline that building needs to be gone, right? Because you can knock that building down in an afternoon and put it in a truck and get it out of there. There's also companies that will come and literally take a building apart piece by piece to salvage everything. And I assume we're not doing that, but like there's got to be something in the middle. Like the building's got to be gone, but like...
So the building was originally going to be demoed in October, but it's definitely been moved out. So I don't have a demo date. Do you have a demo date?
Not the most recent one, but I know it's really like
It's definitely November.
soon. Do we have an update
soonest.
on that?
We'll find out at our next construction meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we're gonna
And
do
we're
with that
not
and-
planning on a company coming in and demoing. I think that's part of, like, Great Falls is doing that.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Their
If you know
disposition on it.
different.
No, their disposition on it, and there's also hazardous materials we have to consider as well when you take
Yeah.
down a building of that nature,
Yeah.
so.
So how we would potentially, like, offer items for salvage, that, we're still not totally sure about that.
Do you think it's possible we'll have an answer or some more of an answer by Friday, and we can kind of discuss at least
Next
our
Friday.
Next
yeah
Friday?
for our meeting. Yeah,
Next Friday.
Yeah,
Next
we
Friday,
should.
Thank you.
We have
Yeah.
a meeting coming up, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
As far as communications not having to do with the new school, I have received lots of emails from people about cell phone bans and cell phone policies and what do we do. So I met with Carl Francis and plan to put some bit of information out, even though the guidebook, the student handbooks for each school are available online with the guidance. No, people don't really know where to go find that. So I'm working with the communications committee on finding some way to sort of succinctly and clearly say, here's what we do on campus, and a little bit of here's why, because I think it'll clarify some confusion and angst about our cell phone policy throughout the district.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's coming.
Thank you.
That's it.
Awesome.
That's me.
That's a lot. Thank you. Great. All right. Was there any ad hoc, ad hoc committee reports? Any? Yeah. Go ahead.
So Community Partners has not met. That includes PTO and Foundation 51, but I did note that there are some exciting things going on nonetheless. So I think Foundation 51, unless they extended their fall grant submission deadline again, that just closed yesterday. So I'm looking forward to hearing what ideas were proposed and end up getting funded through that. PTO has their annual Parent Power Appeal. They're trying to raise $15,000 by November 7th. The grand event, as Jeff noted, is coming up on October 22nd. And there is now a way to order Greeley gear year-round. PTO has a new website, so they'll continue to do their seasonal sales. But if you check out their website or Facebook page, or I know it's also been in at least the middle school newsletter as to what that URL that you can now use to order Greeley gear any time of year.
That's great. Are they also selling it at the school store? Do we know that? Was that part of the idea?
The school store in the high school?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, the answer.
I was just kind of curious.
I think they're selling some things in the
Okay.
store.
Cool.
There might be older versions of it. No, it may not be current.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's year round now because I always seem to miss the deadline. So that's great. Anyone else?
I met with the Cumberland Rec Council Committee, whatever that is. And I think just a reminder for everybody that we likely can't do camps in MIW next year, that they'll have to work in the middle school, and that could get a little tight. So they're open to ideas. I think they think it can work in the middle school, but just kind of keep that on the community's radar and our radar as well. And then they're still working on the Twin Brook facility master plan, and Peter really appreciated the work with Jeff and Scott on just like collaborating on what that looks like in the MOU that you guys have. And then we're also seeing just a ton of activity and registration from a community standpoint, and so they're looking at more Sunday activities, but that requires more legal. They have to get a Sunday waiver to be able to do some of the activities on Sundays, and so that's just something that for an option for us and community members to know that Sundays might become more of an option just to be able to fit it all in. And they were very interested in the new rules around the turf field and how they can use it and how they can engage in it and how the community plans to use it. And I talked to them, and it's kind of an evolving thing, but we discussed our current protocol, and I know David has been in touch with them as well. But they're very interested in the turf field, and they've been super excited about what they've used so far, and they've been happy about it.
Great. Any other ad hoc committees? All right, then just the general communications item. I just wanted to, I think this had come up earlier, and it would encourage if anyone has things that they would like to talk about, future board meetings, agendas, ideas for workshops. Feel free, reach out. We have the joint meeting coming up in 4 weeks. I mean, I know the date. I know we have this meeting one more time, and then instead of our next meeting, it is the joint meeting. And that's going to be hosted at the Cumberland Town Hall, so they will be the host. And I think a couple of the questions that came up tonight during public comment were just related to taxes and proposals around tax increases. So I anticipate that we'll continue having these conversations probably in other venues, including finance and with the joint meeting. I'm just trying to think of other questions that could come up during public comment. We talked about the naming of the new school and follow up around that, and continuing to, have engagement with the community, both through finance and other venues, to be able to follow up on some of those items. Was there anything else that came up that we think we should address today?
Just sentimental value about the building over there that we're going to tear down. Is it in a shape where we could do a walkthrough? Is it in a shape where there could be a little bit of community involvement before it gets torn down? As someone that took classes in there, and my grandmother played basketball in there, just an attachment to it. So I don't know what kind of condition it's in at this point. I know we are using it as a maintenance building, but it's not always been a maintenance building. It's been many things throughout the years. So.
Was a gym, was a cafeteria, was a classroom.
A story walk through the...
An exhibition hall at one point, yeah.
Oh, wow.
For all of those.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think we can discuss that Friday. I mean, I'll give my hard hat and vest to anybody that needs to go through there, but, just because I have it, I want to brag about it. But yeah, I think we can discuss that Friday as a plan, because that is something I think for sure that whatever the process is of people engaging in some of the materials, as Megan was kind of talking about, we should have clear expectations and what that looks like, and that's probably going to be based off the date that we expect that to be torn down. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. That we'll try to include the community in a way that's
I love
safe.
a collection of stories. I mean, it was so nice to hear Kay today share, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way to invite some
Yeah.
stories in to share. Yeah.
I'm sure the stories played in all of them.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes. Great. Anything else? Anybody want to put the final motion in then?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jesse. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor? Megan's already got her hand
I
up.
thought Megan was discussing.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.